Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Friday edition of the Rodcast, and you know what that means. That means it's a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo, 512 Foot Friday edition of the Rodcast, and that means we got lots of football to discuss on the show. We'll talk about the game last night. Eagles take command, if you will, of the NFC East with a big win over the Commanders. We'll talk about that and get into it. Speaking of the NFC East, the Cowboys made a declaration yesterday, probably a little too late, but still we'll jump into that too. We'll also dive into the big NFL matchups over the weekend. You got the Steelers and the Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk about that as well. We got some Texans news we'll throw out there. Of course, Longhorn fans, we ain't forgot about you. We're talking lots of Texas, Arkansas. Of course, big rivalry being rekindled on the 40 acres. So we'll break it all down. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian, courtesy of my man Patrick, who broke down that audio. So we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain, hear from the head coach coming up next segment, but also breaking it down, the X's and O's, and previewing that matchup as well. We'll dive into tonight's big fight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. We'll hear a little bit from Mike Tyson. Oh, man, Mike Tyson still knows how to promote a damn fight. That is for sure. We'll get into it. We'll dive into that topic. Also, all your usual favorites on the show. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats. So we got your topic for the big fat poll of the day. We also have off the record. We got Who Said That on the show. Raj Rants coming up a little bit later on. We are jam-packed on a Friday, ladies and gentlemen, and we are grateful that you could join us. Before we do any of that, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for a hustler, for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. It's always good morning on a Friday when you wake up, and then it was cold enough that the dog was actually coming up and cuddling with me a little bit in the bed this morning. Tell he's a little bit.
Hey man, it's cold, chilly.
He was like, "Hey, normally I sleep in my own bed, but it's a little chilly right now, so I think I come up here for a little warmth." So was woke up this morning, went to the bathroom, was like, "Where's my dog at?"
Yeah,
like he's not in his normal spots. And then I just see him, and I've thrown the covers over on top of him, and he's like his head's just poking out.
Oh god!
So we gotta have that good morning. Then we'll have a good fight tonight. Hopefully, a good fight tonight, and then.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if it's going to be good, but hey, I'm here for it. I'm ready to go. Like I'm excited for the fight. They got me excited. Mike Tyson did it. He got me excited for the fight. Good job. Well done. That's how you promote a fight. We'll talk about it. We got some highlights, but they did it right. I don't know. Probably was staged, who knows? But we'll see. We'll talk about it.
It is.
Yeah.
They know what
of course.
Of course it's. I mean, of course it's pretty staged, but I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a fun time tonight, and then 11 a.m. game with Texas, which is always, it's fun when you're playing on the road against Arkansas. You don't want to play that 7:00 game.
Nah, man. This is a blessing. This is a blessing for 11 a.m.
So happy about that time for that game.
Yeah.
Go enjoy the rest of my Saturday. There's not a lot of good games on Saturday. It's an okay weekend.
No, you got that the Georgia-Tennessee game.
Georgia-Tennessee, that's the big one that you want to watch.
Yeah.
So it's not overly done. Then Sunday, just gonna enjoy football. No teams that I have.
Great games on Sunday.
Some really good games on Sunday, and then I don't have to worry about my teams because the Texans and Cowboys don't play till Monday.
I know, which is I'm with you. I'm glad actually to not have to worry about the Texans on Sunday because I want that weekend. I really want to focus on these other games because the Kansas City Chiefs and the Bills game, that's a big game. That Steelers Ravens game is a huge game, and I'm sure there's some other good ones, but those are the two to me. And then one last night was actually, I thought it was a good game, but I thought it was going to be. I thought we'll talk about it, but I thought Philadelphia controlled the game, I should say, even though they weren't leading the game for most of the game. It was weird. It was one of those strange games like that. But I said I thought Philadelphia would win. They ended up pulling away in the fourth quarter. We'll discuss it.
We'll get into all that. But let's first introduce you to my co-host. He's a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is a new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate that. Yeah, man, it is cold. It's just downright. I mean, it's time for a jacket. Like it's
Yeah.
it's that time of the year again. So officially, thank the Lord, looks like we are past all the hot days here in Texas and officially in fall weather. And of course, that means lots of football to discuss. So we'll get into that coming up. Next segment, we'll get into Texas football and talk Texas, Arkansas. We'll also talk about the availability report, the latest, I should say, availability report from yesterday, and what that says about the Longhorns and the Razorbacks in that matchup. We'll also dive into some Sark audio as well. But first, we'll talk about the game last night. So let's not waste any time. Let's get educated, informed, and updated with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks fell to the Jazz 115 to 113 last night after Dallas let John Collins get a go-ahead dunk with 6 seconds left, and Najee Marshall missed the game-winning three-pointer. Luka Doncic had 37.7 rebounds and 9 assists in a game where Kyrie Irving missed it due to a shoulder injury. Tonight, the NBA Cup play resumes with the Spurs playing the Lakers and the Rockets taking on the Clippers. And Saturday, the Spurs and Mavericks face off in Dallas. In college basketball, Texas men take on Mississippi Valley State on Saturday after they were just beaten by Missouri by 72 points. And the Texas women play DePaul on Sunday evening. In college football, the Longhorns play old rivals Arkansas on the road this weekend with an 11 a.m. kick. And elsewhere, number 22 LSU has a matchup with Florida. Number 21 South Carolina takes on number 23 Missouri. And number 7 Tennessee faces number 12 Georgia in a game with major playoff implications. And in the NFL, the Eagles pulled out a 26-18 win over the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Saquon Barkley led the way with 192 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in a game where both quarterbacks struggled to get going. Sunday, the Ravens and the Steelers face off in a big AFC North showdown, and the Bills welcome the Chiefs to Buffalo, trying to be the first team to beat Kansas City this season. On Monday, the Texans and Cowboys go head-to-head on Monday Night Football, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yeah, and the story of that game last night was Saquon Barkley. He went off. 198 total yards from scrimmage, 146 rushing yards. He had 52 receiving yards on 2 receptions. And he was clutch. It all came exactly when you needed it in the fourth quarter. Strangely enough, this is why it was a weird game. I don't know how the Washington Commanders were leading that game for 3 quarters, but they did. And they just couldn't find a way to make enough plays in the fourth quarter. But, man, the Eagles were clutch, and so was Saquon Barkley. Basically had 3 haymakers on his own in the second half that helped them pull away. He had that 23-yard touchdown run with just under 5 minutes left to give them the 2-score lead. And then Jane Daniels threw that pick, and then he had that 39-yard touchdown that gave to give him 146 total rushing yards. And then he ended up with that 43-yard catch and run that set up that Jalen Hurts 1-yard touchdown. And that was early in the fourth quarter. So, but basically all of his big plays came in the fourth quarter, and he's the reason that they took the lead. I mean, he just took over the game, and he's had that kind of season too. I mean, he's already at 1,137 rushing yards. He leads the NFL in that category. He also in scrimmage yards, he has 1,347 scrimmage yards and 10 total touchdowns already. He's averaging 5.7 yards per rush so far this season. I mean, he surpassed 1,000 yards. It was like the fastest in his career to get to 1,000 yards. It's the 4th time he's done it in his career, but he's never gotten there as quickly as he has with the Eagles in just 10 games, getting to over 1,000 yards. I mean, Saquon Barkley, when healthy, he's a force. I mean, you can make the argument that when he's healthy, maybe the best back in the league. You can make that. You can debate that and make that argument and make that claim, and hard to argue against it when he's playing like this.
No, I mean, he's been playing great football, and this is, I mean, he's been playing great against everybody. I expected him to have a decent game last night simply because Dan Quinn, if you want to say one weakness of his teams has been in the past, that he may allow some run game and may allow some premier backs to get going on him. And so you thought Saquon Barkley maybe could get going in this game. It didn't come until the end. Yeah, I mean, the Commanders got that early touchdown from Brian Robinson, and that basically held Philly off for long enough until we get down to that into the third, fourth quarter, and all of a sudden Saquon turns it on, and it pulls away.
Yeah, I think to me, I agree with you about the Dan Quinn thing. I think that's one of the vulnerabilities of his defense. We know that from his Cowboys days. But man, the lack of complementary football. Remember, I brought this up yesterday about Cliff Kingsbury's offenses, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But man, down the stretch, I think that defense needed a break, and they didn't get many of them from like the offensive side. They couldn't put together many like sustained drives to help out the defense, and that's basically what they needed. They needed some ball control. And I mean, we talked about this with Cliff Kingsbury, even going back to college. You don't really get that in a Cliff Kingsbury offense. They'll go on these stretches where, it's just kind of 3 and outs and they're off the field quickly. That can expose the defense. And I think that happened to Dan Quinn. Remember, they had 5 possessions lasting less than 2 minutes. And, like I said, that's the lack of complementary football. And that ends up, I think, hurting the defense, especially in the fourth quarter when they're worn out. And, that's when the run game, the Eagles pound the rock. That's when the dam broke. And I think they just need a little bit more complementary football. So I think, and like I said, I think Cliff Kingsbury's done a hell of a job. But first, it came out running the pony package. Loved it. I mean, they've been killing people in the pony, by the way.
Yeah.
They've been doing some great stuff out of the pony. They came out, I think, the first 2 drives, and they were running mostly the pony package. Hell, you could even ask Sark. They were running some of the old school kind of BYU offense back in the day. And I wonder if Sark was watching the game. I know he watches a lot of football, and he has a certain coaching tree he likes in the NFL. And we'll see if maybe we can see some of those pony package ideas that he could steal. But I digress. I like what Cliff Kingsbury is doing. I still think they might be hitting a wall, like I talked about this yesterday. And Cliff Kingsbury's teams, notoriously, they start to the second half of the season, their metrics and a lot of their stats start to drop off as well. But I just think that the complementary football, I think they gotta start working on that element of the overall blueprint for the Washington Commanders. I think it came back to haunt them in this game, specifically.
No, I mean it's always hard to judge that ground of running the ball early, even if you're not having great success, to give your offensive line the wins, to let them start leaning on that defense a little bit more, lean on them, give your quarterback a little bit more rest, just let the offensive line get to work so that when you set up that third and fourth quarter that you've already been running the ball and you're already been leaning on them all game, they're a little bit more tired. They're a little bit more susceptible to let a big one go through. We saw the Eagles do that better with Saquon, and Brian Robinson gets an early touchdown, but they don't really lean on him and just trust Brian Robinson to go. And I get those are 2 very different players, but
yes, no doubt.
But I think you have to lean on him a little bit more early in these games. So especially, I get if you're down, I get if you're fighting back, but you weren't down.
Yeah, you're up. Yeah,
you were
exactly.
Up, so
That's a great point. It felt like you were like down at times, but you weren't. You led the whole damn game.
So go ahead and run the ball, try and just beat them up, run some time off the clock, and slow down a little bit and run the football, get your offensive line some wins, lean on them a little bit more to just break down this defense. But they kept trying to go out. And then Jaden Daniels, even if you look at those stats, they're a little bit skewed because Jaden Daniels has 7 runs. We go, those are pass plays.
Yeah.
So those 7 runs it's 39 passes to 21 runs.
Yeah.
Which that number is not as good as 28 and 32. So once you take away the Jaden Daniels scrambles and put those into what he's actually play calling, it changes up a little bit more of what you're seeing of that balance of a game you're winning. You shouldn't be putting the ball in your rookie's hands over and over and go, hey, it's not working. Go figure it out. It's not working. Go figure it out. Trust your backs a little bit more. And I know they use Eckler some of that passing too. They use him some that's an extension of the run game, so maybe it skews it back a little bit. But
they do. But you're right about that. I totally agree. I think this is on the receivers of Washington too. They had a hard time getting separation. Very much. I mean, I talked about Scary Terry and how he usually goes off against the Eagles. He did not go off. As a matter of fact, he did not have a target. He didn't have a target in the first half, let alone a reception. He didn't have a target in the first half. This is the second time in his career. And they basically shut the vertical passing game down for Jaden Daniels, which has been, something that he's been really excelling at in the throws of 10, 15 plus yards on the season in his rookie year. But he was 1 of 5 on throws of 10 yards past the line of scrimmage last night.
No, I
And
mean, he had
10
5
yards, 1
receptions
interception.
to wide receivers.
That's it. Yeah.
The rest were tight ends and running backs.
Yeah. So it was kind of a mirage, the passing game for them. And that's why I thought maybe they could, like I said, I think they could have put themselves in a better position with more complimentary football. And like you said, really just trying their best to, and I know they weren't running the ball really effective either, but more ball control. Though I think some of those drives of 2 minutes or less, it was 5 of them. I think that came back to haunt them a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, that always comes back to haunt you. Those drives that are so quick, those 3 and outs. So I think for Washington, maybe there's a wall with Cliff Kingsbury. We talked about Cliff Kingsbury's offenses. Second half of the season, they usually hit a bit of a wall. I gave this stat yesterday because I was looking it up, but this is him as a head coach or as a OC. 27 points per game in the first half of the season, like the first 8 games, and that drops to 21 points per game in the second half of the rest of the season with him as a head coach or OC. It's always been notoriously that his offenses, they seem to sputter late in the season. That's something that I'm sure he's been working on, but now with Jaden Daniels potentially with a rookie wall, and with the Washington Commanders as a team, like this is a first-year coach, I wonder if things are just going to get a little bit tougher for them. And I would say that they face 2 really good teams. The Steelers are good, and the Eagles are good. So that just may be it too. Just maybe now they face really good teams, and when they face really good teams with really good defenses, he's still a rookie quarterback when it's all said and done. And that's why you've got 2 subpar performances in a row because he just played a really good defense. We'll see if they bounce back next week.
And also it's Thursday Night Football, which historically is not a offensive led. Now there are some games that are, but
the Eagles should have scored 30. Yeah, they should have scored 30.
Yeah, historically it is a slower game and more defensive led game. So that was kind of, you saw 2 really good defenses were playing in this game. It would tell you that likely it was going to be a low scoring game. But you were hoping that the Commanders could put up a little bit more of a fight. Cause again, as much as they led for most of the game, it didn't feel like they were.
It just didn't feel like it. They didn't have control of the game if they led the game, if that makes any sense. But yeah, Philly should have scored. Remember, Philly left 7 points on the field.
Yeah.
They missed 2 field goals, missed an extra point. I mean, Philly should have scored 30-something points in that game or around it. So that's, Philly's rolling right now, man. They look good. They look like they're finding their groove. I think they've now started to really gel their synchronicity with that Kellen Moore offense. I think Kellen Moore has figured out exactly how to call games for this Philadelphia team and this personnel. And I think now they're figuring out what Kellen Moore wants to achieve with this system.
Oh, yeah, and I'm Vic Fangio. We always knew Vic Fangio was good in the beginning of the season. It didn't look like that defense was getting it done, and it was, some questions being asked, but right now he's got that defense rolling.
They fixed their coordinator problem. Remember, their Super Bowl run, they had 2 coordinators that were so damn good. They ended up getting head coaching jobs and leading head coaching jobs, and then next year they seem to be struggling to figure out who the coordinator is going to be. And it looks like now, like I said, I know people don't like Kellen Moore, but at least right now, and I agree, Vic Fangio is obviously has a lot of respect around the league as one of the best coordinators. And I think I know people talk about his scheme being so impactful, and obviously being something that teams copied and was so popular. I just think he's really good at finding scheme fits, like the guys that fit his scheme. That's what the Eagles, he finds the best scheme fits just for the personnel that is most compatible with his system. He does a great job of teaching them, how they can work within his scheme and system. Like when they can operate outside the rules of his system and when they need to operate in the rules of his system. That is, to me, I think his greatest asset as a coach. It's just phenomenal. I mean, look at all those guys, all those new guys on the Eagles defense. Now they're playing together.
That's what
those are new guys there.
Yeah, it felt like that was the deal. Is now looking at it now, you can say it took a while for that defense to gel and get everybody in the right place and everybody to learn their assignments and what they needed to do and the communication. But once it got together, they're playing really well right now.
They're rolling,
and that's it. It's just going to be, is Jalen Hurts going to be able to really make it work by the end of the season, is he going to be able to get going? Because you're going to need him in the playoffs.
Yeah, he started slow. Then he figured it out though. I remember he struggled in the first quarter. He completed, I think he was 4 of 10 for 42 yards and took a bad sack that was all on him. And then he figured it out. He hit 14 of his final 18 passes over the last 3 quarters, 474 yards. And they don't need him to do much as a passer. I don't say much. They don't need him to carry the offense as a passer.
Yeah.
Because Saquon right now is just playing like a man possessed. Now, knock on wood, we know Saquon's had an injury history, so you don't want to wear him out too much. But he's been better in the second half of games. He's been wearing out opponents. That's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Because the run game of Jalen Hurts too, and then Saquon, they're just wearing out opponents. His first half of yards per rush, 4.2. Second half, 7.2. This season, 7.2 yards per rush in his second half. His explosive rush rate in the first half is around 2%, and in the second half is around 12%. As the defenses wear down, he starts to rev up. And that's a scary thought. That's why last 5 games, 773 scrimmage yards, 6.2 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. And like I said, as the defenses start to wear down, because Jalen Hurts, he wears you down, scrambling, quarterback design runs. Then you got Saquon Barkley, and they're consistent. They pound you because they know the dam will break. And just like it did, what happened in the Washington game, the dam broke. That's what they've been doing the last few games. They pound you, and they play such a physical style offensively that once your defense in the fourth quarter. And you're still dealing with what seems to be somehow a fresh Saquon. They end up relenting. They end up giving up a lot of yards, and I think that is part of their blueprint. That's why ball control and complementary football is important against the Eagles.
Yeah, and you also throw in the fact of the difference when AJ Brown's in there.
That's a big difference
because you throw all that in, and you go, that's all great, but you don't have any explosive without AJ Brown. Like, they just haven't really been. Devontae Smith hasn't been able to get going downfield. He hasn't gotten the separation as much this year. So even though he has a few receptions, he didn't get much yardage out of him. So he hasn't had the explosion that he's had in years past in this offense. But AJ Brown is just good enough that he's still getting yards and still be able to get you some stuff. So when you add him in to get you that 20-yard play, and then you go right back to pounding the football with Saquon Barkley, it can really wear down a defense, because you have to watch out for AJ Brown. Now you have to watch out for Devontae Smith because he can fly. And then you put in Saquon Barkley. So you're trying to go back and forward all the pieces. But yeah, that AJ Brown piece, you could see last night how much that means to this team too.
Yeah, they've played 10 games now. They are 7-0 straight up when AJ Brown plays, and it's a 6. Yeah, he played last night, so that would make it 7-0 when he plays. And when he's been out, it says here they're 1-2, averaging 17 points per game.
Yeah.
So I think that throws it. That gives you that kind of gives you the scope of it right there. What Patrick was talking about. They're just that puts it over the top. Because yes. I just pointed out all the rushing issues that they present, the problems they present to a defense. But then it's like, oh, yeah, don't forget about they got a top 5 wide receiver you also need to defend.
Yeah, I mean, because if you can put a nickel or a safety in there to help stop the run and just basically find the hole and try and at least put a body on Saquon and try and slow him down so that people can catch up to him, you can stop the run a little bit more. But with AJ Brown and then especially Devontae Smith playing on a secondary cornerback, it just kind of takes you back a little bit further, and just it takes that other guy out of that run game. And once you take that one other guy out of the run game, it just opens everything wide open. Yeah,
that's all. And I'm with you. I think and Dan Quinn, I thought, did a good job for like 3 quarters.
He did.
I thought the defense did a good job for like 3 quarters, but for 4 quarters, it's tough. And I think, like I said,
Yes.
that's why offense got to help the defense out a little bit. You got to get some longer drives together. All right, so there you go. The Eagles take control of the NFC East. We'll talk about the NFC East. We'll talk about the Cowboys coming up a little bit. But let's hit the availability report before we dive behind the burnt orange curtain next segment and hear from the head coach, Steve Sarkisian, and start breaking down the Texas-Arkansas matchup a little bit more. The latest availability report from yesterday, it has downgraded, actually. One of the Longhorns who was doubtful, Colton Vasek, is now out. So he is out, along with, of course, the usual players who have been out all season: C.J. Baxter, Christian Clark, Gardner at the running back position, and Derek Williams, who has been out since that Oklahoma game. So Colton Vasek is out, and Maurice Blackwell is now doubtful. So chances are Maurice Blackwell is not going to make the trip if he's doubtful. So he's going to be maybe not out, but he's not going to be available. I should say that. And for Arkansas, just as we thought, you got the guys that are out. They got 3 DBs that are out: Selman Bridges, Jalen Braxton, Anthony Switzer. The D lineman Anton Junkaj is out, and their kicker, Kyle Ramsey, is out. So they got a backup kicker, but they have upgraded the status of Braylon Russell from questionable to probable, and Taylor Green and Jaquindon Jackson were already probable, and they remain with that status on the latest availability report. So those guys are going to play. I told you Braylon Russell was going to play. I mean, he was available in the last game versus Ole Miss. He's just a physical, bruising he's 250 pounds, so he's only really got one style. So I imagine he's always bruised and banged up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the guys who try to tackle him, trust me, they're bruised and banged up too. He's a load to bring down. I think that's important for them. That's an important ingredient in their recipe.
Yeah. And we all know Sam Pittman knows what this game is. Mm-hmm. And I think for Sam Pittman, he knows, man, I need everybody out there, because even if I can win this game, then I may get an extension. They may give me more years.
Oh, no, on the field. Like, one right there. Yeah, he'll get.
But if I can keep this game close,
then they'll love you.
Then I can put this into, now my job's a little bit safer and people like me a little bit more. But if I get boat race in this game,
now don't forget all about your Tennessee win. Then.
Yeah, exactly. Now all of a sudden, like, man, you can't even compete with both UTs.
No, you're right about that. I that's, you hate to have a moral victory as a coach, but when you're facing a team, when the disparity is this large, because Texas is a much better team. I don't know what they're favored by now. They started out as a 16.5
it's down to
favorite.
12, actually.
Okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense to me, because, like I said, Arkansas, they're explosive. We've been talking about they're explosive offense. They present the most problematic offense Texas has faced so far this season. It's just on the other side, the Arkansas defense is not. They have not shown that they are up to the task of stopping an explosive offense like Texas. So if they come out, if Texas offense starts slow, this game could get interesting. If Texas offense starts fast, this game could be a blowout. So that's really what it comes down to.
I mean, that has been the story of the season, hasn't it?
Yeah. In a nutshell, yeah. And that's usually it comes down to Quinn. If Quinn starts fast and Quinn looks good, Texas look like they're probably going to boat race him. But if Quinn looks a little shaky and the offense looks a little shaky, then I could see, them, because they want to. I just said this about ball control with the Washington versus Philly. That's what Arkansas wants to do. It needs to be a ball control game for them. Yeah. And if they start, 2 things to watch early. If Arkansas has a little success on the ground, I'm talking about 4 yards. They don't need to have a lot of success. 4 to 5 yards a pop. They can get 4 to 5 yards on a couple of run plays. They're in business.
Yeah.
So if you're Texas, you want to your stuff rate early is going to matter. Stuff rate is stopping runs at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. We see a couple of those early from Texas. We're in business.
Nope.
Texas knows what they're doing. But offensively, if Texas doesn't start fast, if they start a little slow and early on have one of those drives that early on is a turnover early on or self-inflicted wounds early on, that could blow up in your face. Honestly, just like it did versus Florida, but you'll be on the road, so it'll be a different environment. You were at home. So, honestly, Sark is the reason that the Florida game didn't become more interesting. We talked about the play, the 4th and 1 on your own 24. Yeah. Remember, you started slow, and Sark was like, hell no, we ain't started slow today. Nope, it ain't happening. Nope, because he knows the difference, just like Patrick said. Yeah. If they start fast, boat race. They start slow, oh, man, looks like we're going to be in a little bit of a slugfest here. That has been really the theme, and that has been the trend for Texas. And Sark was like, "I'm not letting it happen. I'm
No.
going for it on 4th and 1. I'm on 24 to make sure we start fast." And I wonder what he's got in store versus Arkansas to make sure that, because I think that is going to be key for this offense. Always has been all year.
And I think he saw that Mississippi State game. It's like if you just leave the door where they can just run the football and just waste time, then we'll never get a rhythm going. Nope. That mojo's gone because we're not on the field for 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to go. Then you got to send the offense back out there, and they got to get warmed back up again and try and get going every single time. So you go, no, we want to get points early so that we put the pressure on them. That are you just going to run the ball on us? And if we get a stop on you on 1st or 2nd down and hold you to 2 yards, you still going to run the ball? It's 2nd and 8. You trust yourself to run the ball? Put yourself in a 3rd and 5 or whatever,
against the number 1 defense in the country. Go ahead.
And so Sark wants to put him on the other side of that. This is another one of those, if he wins a toss, you could believe he takes the ball first and just, hey, man, march down the field. Let's go get him.
Yep. I agree with you, man. That slow start. It's the great part about Mississippi State, like I said, the reason they were able to keep it close was really because they just shortened the game. And I think that's what Arkansas wants to do too. But Sark didn't let it happen. Sark didn't let it happen versus Florida. Florida won that. No, Florida ran for almost 200 yards, guys. So I think Sark knew, like I knew, and I was telling you guys, they had the best running back, kind of the depth at the running back position and running back talent that Texas had faced all year. They were able to run the ball. Now we can say, oh, they did that mostly in the second half against backups when Texas was conceding yards. All that can be true, but they still ran the rock. Nobody else has been able to do that. Nobody else has been able to do that. So I think Sark understood, man, if they can do that, if they were able to do that in the first half, then that would have been extremely problematic. And Sark didn't let it happen because he put, as Patrick mentioned, a lot of pressure on them to keep up because they kept scoring.
Yeah.
All right. They kept putting, and you got to keep up with Texas. Otherwise, you're going to get blown out. And trust me, Billy Napier with his AD there in attendance that they had just given him the vote of confidence, he did not want that. He didn't. All right. That's why he kicked that field goal early on. He's like, no, I'm not getting goose egged here now. I'm not getting shut out because that ultimately is the ultimate embarrassment. That's not happening. All right. So we'll come back. We'll talk about that. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian on the other side. He had his media availability yesterday talking about their upcoming opponents, the Arkansas Razorbacks. We'll continue to do so as well right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation and talk about this Texas Arkansas matchup a little bit more. There's no doubt, how they defend and neutralize Taylor Green is probably going to be the top priority in this matchup because that really will, you start there, in my opinion, because he's part of the running game and the passing game. Like he's both. And so, how you kind of start to defend him, you're going to have a spy on him a lot of the times in predictable passing situations. They like to run him on the edges. We talked about this yesterday with the quarterback design runs. But like I said, you got to worry about him as a scrambler as well. And the zone read element, of course, is a big part of their run game. So to me, that's where I would start. And then kind of everything is built off of that. Sark was asked about Taylor Green and how is he the most dangerous quarterback, basically, that Texas has faced this season, something that we've been saying on the show, and I think Sark agrees.
I would say so. I mean, it's one to have the running ability and the throwing ability, but it's the size factor as well. I think he's 6'6", probably close to 240 pounds. And so his ability to get out of the pocket, extend plays, then use his legs. I think the scheme really helps. So I think Coach Petrino, Coach Pittman do a great job of giving the design quarterback runs, the zone read stuff, but then also the pro style passing game is very taxing. And so he poses a heck of a challenge for us.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, they have him on throws of 10 plus yards, 15th highest passing grade in the country at 92. They got him overall passing grade at 84. I was a little surprised he was that high, but he does have a really nice arm, and he makes plays in the passing game. He does. He's just a playmaker in the passing game. I think he's most dangerous on their all verts concept when they just have the kind of four verts going down the field because they have big receivers. Their receivers in the rotation. Andrew Armstrong 6'4". They got another kid Tesla. He's 6'4". They got Tyrone Broden, he's 6'7". His average depth of target is like 17 yards down the field. He's 6'7". They just scramble drill, throw it to him on all verts concept. And all verts, it's something that will force the defense to have to respect the verticality. So your safeties are dropping back, usually linebackers dropping back, and then his scramble ability really, comes into play. And he's averaging, I think, 11 yards per scramble, something like that. So you got to defend, as I always talk about, multiple plays in one when you play players like this, right? I got to defend the initial play, especially on passing downs. I got to defend the initial play. And then I have to defend the scramble drill after that play breaks down. And then I got to defend him as an elite runner, which he is when he decides to tuck and run the football. That's a lot of plays in one. It's hard enough to defend one play, let alone 3 in 1. And in the running game, he also offers that same type of, that kind of added value. Because in the run game, they'll run the zone read and they'll, obviously have the threat of the inside run game. But he's a guy that when he keeps it on those quarterback keepers, he's trying to hit the edge. So he's going to really, force your edges to have to be disciplined and not crash the inside run game. And when they can't crash the inside run game, where you lose your numbers in the inside run game, makes it harder to tackle a guy like Braylon Russell with 250 some pounds. So it all works. It's all like it's to them all they present problems to you on multiple levels, and you have to, as a defensive coordinator, solve all the different problems that they present. And on the outside, and a guy like Andrew Armstrong. But the key is if you focus on Taylor Green, and you can discombobulate him enough and confuse him enough. He's a tremendous talent. Looks like a basketball player out there at the quarterback position, but he does turn the football over. I believe he's got 7 interceptions and 11 fumbles on the season. He will turn it over. And this Texas defense has been really opportunistic. I think they got 14 interceptions on the season, leading the SEC right now. That to me is key. Right now, Arkansas, I told you this yesterday, Arkansas has 22 fumbles. Now they've lost 8 of them. They got 22 fumbles on the season. That's a bunch of fumbles. Only Oklahoma has more. The only team in all of college football that's got more fumbles is Oklahoma. Here's Sark talking about the Texas defense and how they've been able to force turnovers and be more opportunistic this season.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think, one, you have to have scheme, right? You have to put players in position to make plays. 2, you have to have ability to make the play. But I think turnovers happen because of football IQ and awareness. And I really believe that. Like, you can be big, tall, and fast, but if you don't know what's happening around you, you probably don't recognize when there's an opportunity to punch a ball out to cause a fumble, or when to get your hands up when you're rushing the passer to tip a pass, or, because I'm so confident in my coverage, I don't have to be so locked in on the receiver. I can see a ball be thrown, and then if it is tipped, I can break on that ball and go make the play. So again, I think there's scheme, I think there's ability, but I also think there's football IQ and football awareness that our guys, especially in the back end, have a ton of. And I think that's because, one, there's a lot of experience back there, but two, I think there's a real sense of confidence and trust in one another to go make their plays.
I like that, and there's no doubt. I've talked about the situational awareness that has improved for the defense. Right, they play downs and distance better than they used to. I think, understand based on their film study, I'm sure, and their preparation. But they seem to be understanding situational football better. And I noticed that when it's a third and medium, you don't see guys like you did last year who are playing off coverage and playing outside leverage, just giving them an easy completion on an inside cut. You don't see that. They're using the help they have within defense. They know where their help is on the defense. You can tell that. And they're relying and trusting on that, whatever that coverage defender is, to be there. But also you can tell that these guys, they just have more, like I said, more football awareness overall. I mean, think about the interception that Jahdae Barron had that first interception that he had on the season, where he robs the post, where he comes all the way from the backside of the play to rob the post, when they were trying to run a deep post on the front side. Remember, Malik Muhammad was in coverage. He had gotten behind the safety at Colorado State. It was only one of the times that he was open. Torrey Horton, their number one receiver, and yet Jahdae Barron came all the way from the backside to come get the interception. That's awareness, right? That's just, he's not supposed to be there. That's why they threw it there. He was not supposed to be there, but he went to rob the post because he's situational. He knew, I don't have any work, so go find work. As you find work, you sink. And like I said, those types of plays lead. Those are a lot of your interceptions have come that way for Texas, in my opinion. And Sark's right about that. All right, another player who's got to have a big game, considering you're going up against the most explosive offense you've seen, and you got a dual threat quarterback to deal with, and you have a potent running game to deal with, is Anthony Hill. And Anthony Hill has been having a great season, kind of an all SEC caliber season. I think he's a semifinalist for the Butkus at this time too. Here is Sark talking about Anthony Hill's impact, and I think he's a guy. He's going to be playing multiple roles for you in this game. He's probably going to be on the edge a little bit. He's probably going to be spying. He'll be middle linebacker, a guy that has to come stuff the run. Here is Sark talking about his role and what he's meant to the team so far this season.
Yeah, I love Ant. He's a guy who last season was just trying to play football. He was just, if he could run and hit something, it worked, and he was learning his way as he was going, and he had Jalen Ford there kind of navigating things. And we really put a lot on Ant this year coming back. What I've been impressed with him is obviously the playmaking ability. We see it, he's got sacks, he forces turnovers. He had a great punch out causing the fumble last week. He's disruptive. He's very versatile. He can play on the line of scrimmage. He can play off the ball. But who he is as a person and the work that he puts in and the way he represents our football program is as impressive to me as it is the way that he plays the game. And I always say there's a real correlation to that, right? Who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. If you want to be a really good football player, you got to be a really good person off the field. And those two things tie together. And there's a level of consistency that he's playing with right now, down in, down out, game in, game out. I know number 0 is going to be there Saturday at 11 a.m. I don't have to worry about that. When we take the field, that dude's going to be ready to play.
Yeah, he has been phenomenal. I think Pro Football Focus has him graded as the 6th highest graded linebacker in the Power 4. There's no hell. You brought up yesterday, Patrick, that Michael Parsons is a big fan of Anthony Hill.
Yeah, they must be watching it. Him and Demo must be watching it. The Cowboys. Watching some
Yeah.
Anthony Hill. I mean, other than that guy from OU, I don't know that there's too many people that talk poorly about Anthony Hill.
Yeah, and even that guy, I remember after
He
the
had
game,
to come out
he was
afterwards and be like,
he comes to the game, he's like,
"Was
"No, I
wrong."
was wrong." But that was the best game after y'all realize that was the best game he ever played, right? That was like if you go look at all the games
Yes.
he's played, he had that. I think he has his most tackles for loss and most sacks, and he had played the best game he's ever
Yeah.
played. And so the guy had to eat that crow. I mean, he had to. He's like, "Come on, man, you can't say he's." And he didn't disrespect. I think he just said that.
He said if I was going
to
to attack somebody on that defense, he's the weakest
yes.
link on that defense.
Yes, which that is wrong. Like,
Yeah, that's an insane take.
Yeah.
And look, I think they have a lot of really good players in that defense, but that's still an insane take.
That's insane. There's no way that he's the weakest player. I think he's the weakest player in the front seven or something like that.
Something like that.
And he said like he's good, but he's the weakest in the front seven. It's like, oh no, man. That's no. You're watching the wrong film. I don't know what do you know his number?
Yeah, I think you're watching film from last year too, where you're like you're watching film where he's a true freshman. Like
maybe that's
maybe
it.
Like 3 games in as a true freshman, and he's like, no, look at him. He's making freshman mistakes. Like, no, that was last year.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he watched last year and this year, and it's like I would just watch this year. I wouldn't even last year. It wasn't like he was a bad player either.
No,
but maybe you could have that take. All right, let's get to this take because I thought this was a good question about Andrew Armstrong. Right, this is the best receiver Texas has faced so far, over 800 yards receiving, one of the best receivers in the country, not just in the SEC. And Sark was asked about, do you allocate resources to stop him? You rolling coverage. How are you going to defend Andrew Armstrong? Here's what Sark had to say.
Yeah, no, I think that we have to trust our players. We have to trust our coverage. We have to continually disguise our coverages. And I think PK does a great job of that. And I think our veteran secondary does a really good job of that. Those guys work really well in unison with one another. And so, his length can be a problem on one-on-one balls and 50-50 balls. But again, the scheme is a problem too. So you have to defend the scheme and you have to defend all 11 players that you're defending, but knowing where are the targets, right? And where are the targets going? And he gets plenty of targets. He has plenty of catches and yards. And so we kind of have to do both. But again, we want to remain competitive and we want to remain confident in our own ability to go do that. I think we have pretty good players too. And to marry that with the scheme, I think that's why we've been playing such good pass defense all year.
All right, there you go. That's Sark saying, yeah, he's going to trust him. And they should, right? You have the best cornerback duo in the country. You got a Thorpe Award semifinalist. I think he's going to end up being a finalist in Jadae Barron as well. And you're the number one pass defense in the country. You don't alter that just for one dude. And he's not like the dude. He's just a dude. He's a dude. You know what I'm saying? He's real. He's a dog. This dude's a dog. But it's just one. It's not like you're facing, the Ohio State core of receivers where it's 3-4 different guys who are going to play on Sundays. They got one guy that's going to play on Sundays. I think because you got 3-4 guys in your
and you can have backup plans and everything else in place. If he starts going off, this is what we'll do. But yeah, coming out of the gates, you have to trust your secondary that's been there for you all year.
Yeah. If I'm Arkansas, I move him around. He's only the most slot reps he's had this season in a game is 7. If I'm Bobby Petrino, I would up that in double digits. I don't want to match up on Jadae Barron and Malik Muhammad.
No,
I want to match up on a safety or Jalen. Nothing against Jalen Gilbo, but that's who I'd match up against. And if I'm Texas, I'd be ready for that to move Jadae Barron inside if I need to, as Patrick said. Contingency.
Yeah, I also put him in motion plenty to try and figure out disguises.
Put him in. I would. I'll put him in the backfield. I'd move him all over the damn
place. Move him all around and just have him move around. Just be like, all right, I know you're disguising what you're doing right now, but if he goes over here, what do you? Now you got to show me what do you?
Show what your plan is. If you ain't got a plan, okay, we're gonna do that again. And then we got an adjustment or a counter to it. No, I'm with you. I think I'd find some way to move around. I'm sure they will. They'll have a plan for it. All right, we come back. We'll get into the topic for the Big Fat Poll today, and we'll get into your musically themed day of the week right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn.
Back in the Rodcast on a Friday morning, and that means it's a 512 Friday playing local music for you that you can go check out around town this weekend. This is Simi Helix. They're playing a show Saturday at Hotel Vegas, a benefit show for the Sims Foundation, a really good cause that helps awesome musicians get access to mental health care. That is it's a need right now that Sims Foundation is having some financial troubles, not getting the funding they need right now. So if you want to go out and support that, they're doing a benefit Saturday at Hotel Vegas with Simi Helix. You can go check that out. And also give a shout out, since I got text this morning, for Charlie Grace, going to be the lead in her play tonight. So shout out to Charlie Grace as well this morning. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. Text line's open, 512-447-3776 is the text line. And we'll get this posted up on X at The Horn ATX.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the Day on The Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. How many points will Texas score against Arkansas? That number still for the bookie is around, I think, like 34, 35. If you take the spread and what the over-under is, I believe it's around 35 is what you're looking at for what the bookies have it as right now.
Yeah, I think I had him scoring 30. I think it was like 30, 34, 36. I forgot which number I said on the prediction. I think I had like 36-17.
So yeah, so after last week, we're a little bit more confident that this offense can get rolling. The mojo came back last week, so we're a little bit more confident than the 30 points we had last week. But I'll give you the numbers that I'll put in there: 0-14, 15-24, 25-34, and 35 plus.
Yeah, I think I got him scoring 35 plus. That Arkansas defense is like I keep watching that Ole Miss. I shouldn't watch that Ole Miss game, but I should probably watch more of the Tennessee game. That Ole Miss game, Ole Miss just lit them up, and they just couldn't stop them throwing deep, intermediate, short. The yards that they catch, they don't tackle very well. I think they're ninth. I believe they're ninth in the country in terms of yards, ninth most yards after the catch allowed. That's not good going up against a Sark offense.
No.
I don't know. I got at 36 is my number. I got them at 36.
All right. So
they
you're
scored,
just
they score in the low 30s. I wouldn't, I'm not gonna. If they score in the 20s, then that's a problem. They should score 30 something against Arkansas.
Yeah, if they score in the 20s, it means real slow start.
Yep.
And then Arkansas just runs the ball and runs a ton of clock, and then you just make some dumb mistakes because you just get out of rhythm. So penalties on the road, all those things combine for a poor performance is what you're looking at if you get in the 20s most likely. But no, I think that I'm with you. I think 35 plus. Just don't want to go too crazy and cocky on this one against an SEC opponent.
I don't, but I can see it being tight early. I can see it being tight early and Texas pulling away. These Sark runs that happen. I mean, they especially with the Texas defense kind of fueling it. Yeah. So that's, I don't know why. I feel like they're going to be able to score a lot of points. The question is, will the Arkansas offense be able to score against the Texas defense? Will they move the football? That's what we don't know, because that's the most explosive offense Texas defense has faced. But hell, Arkansas's offense hadn't faced the defense this good. Yeah. So, I'm not really sure which one is going to have the most advantage there. I'm picking the Texas defense, but we shall see. But man, if Texas offense can't move the football against this Arkansas defense, I think maybe we ended up yesterday, but last game was an aberration then. But I think it's the beginning of a Texas maybe starting to play their best football offensively, getting back to what their identity is. But Arkansas, 125th in pass defense, 116th in passer rating allowed, 100th in completion percentage allowed, the 111th in yards per attempt allowed, 105th in 10 plus yard passes allowed. So I don't know. That's a bad pass defense, like one of the worst in the country. Texas should be able to move the football offensively.
They should. So that'll be the question. If you want to throw in your final score predictions, you can do that as well. 512-447-3776, or you can throw it in on X. We get that posted up here in just a few minutes. We already got one. Oklahoma Greg says 34-25 for Texas win.
Ooh, 25 points for Arkansas. That's good. That mean that Arkansas. Like I said, I could see that if they're those explosive plays that they generate, and they're top 5 in the country in terms of explosive plays generated, 10+ yard and 20+ yard plays. That would mean the Texas defense gave up some of those, in my opinion.
Yeah,
there's no question. If they score, what do you say, 20? What do you say, 20?
34-25.
25. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping that Texas can keep them in the teens. Like I said, but Texas hadn't faced an offense like this, and they'll be on the road too. And they had a bye week. Bobby Petrino had a bye week, and it's a big game. Big game bye week. This is when you empty the playbook.
Empty the playbook. Yeah, I mean, they were playing tough in practice, trying to work on that tackling, and
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they'll have something that Texas hadn't seen on film on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
There'll be something that Texas hadn't seen on film from Arkansas on both sides of the ball. And Arkansas is just hoping that they play the game they did versus who they upset, Tennessee.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's what they're hoping, they play that kind of game. Oh man, they could beat both UTs.
No,
that's
not
a
gonna
contract.
happen. Don't even think about it, Rod.
No, it's not gonna happen. I'm just just throwing it out there. I was just talking about
that was a night game. See, the thing is, you got to stay out of the night game.
Oh, it was a night game. Yeah,
because that was after that Alabama lost to Vanderbilt the same night.
And because it was upset. That was like an upset Saturday.
Yeah, because Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and then later that night,
it was like Arkansas 5 or 6 upsets.
Tennessee.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that weekend. Yeah, it's a crazy weekend. All right, well, this won't be that. All right, well, we'll get into more Texas, Arkansas. But that's the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. How many points do you think Arkansas is going to score? How many points do you think Texas is going to score against Arkansas? Like I said, I got the 30. If they don't get to 30s, then I'd be concerned, because the Arkansas defense not that good. Rush defense, actually, they're much better, but I can't tell if teams just decide to throw on them because it's the path of least resistance kind of thing, or if they actually do have a stout rush defense. But against Texas has an average running game anyway. Texas leads with the pass. Their
running game goes to the passing game a lot.
Yeah, exactly. The quick passes. So to me, that matches up really well with Arkansas, because they're bad at tackling. They allow a lot of yards after the catch, 9th most in the country. And Texas running game is that's their running game. Just the quick passes, the screens, attach screens, the bubble screens, that kind of thing. Swing screens to the running back. So that also is a bad matchup for Arkansas. Good matchup for Texas. All right, we come back. We'll discuss that and more other NFL news, snow to nuggets. Talk about the big matchups coming up this weekend. Oh, the Cowboys made a declaration, but probably about 5 games too late. Sounds like the Cowboys. We'll dive into that. We'll talk Ravens, Steelers, and we'll talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 Football Friday edition of the Rodcast. 512 means that my co-host, the Idealionaire on the show, comes up with all the musically-themed days of the week. On a 512 Friday, he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Kerry Hudson and Good Company, and they're playing Saturday at Saxon Pub.
Nice. I like that. Nice Friday vibe for you on a 512 Friday. Also, Patrick does a great job coming up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the Day. Always a good conversation starter. What is the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the Day?
Big Fat Poll of the Day today. How many points will Texas score against Arkansas? We gave you 4 options, 0 to 14, 15 to 24, 25 to 34, and 35 plus, which is taking the early lead in the voting. If you want to throw in your final score projections as well, you can do that on the text line, or you can do that on X, and we'll go through some final score projections later too.
Yeah. I see most people saying 35 plus. I feel like that too, and I feel like that's cocky. Against a rival on the road coming off a bye week, but that's how I feel. I can't help how I feel. My wife tells me, I can't help how I feel. All right, and how I feel is they're gonna score more than 35.
Yeah,
points.
I mean,
at least 35 points.
That's the reality of this. This is much more of a is Texas defense going to hold up kind of game for me. I think this offense you feel can put up some points. You know, I just feel like this offense has played pretty well. I mean, the defense has played better than the offense, but still, you know, if you look at what the strengths of the two teams are, I'm not feeling this Arkansas defense necessarily completely shutting down the weapons of Texas and what they've been able to do in their downfield blocking and all of that. I just feel like they're going to put up some points, and can Arkansas keep pace with it?
I would say Arkansas is bad, but they haven't allowed. How many times has the team scored at least 35 points? Of course, Ole Miss scored 63 on them. So yeah, I think that's fresh in everybody's mind. A couple of weeks before the bye. But then for that, LSU scored 34. On them. Didn't quite get there, but it was close. And then you had Oklahoma State who scored 39 on them, but that took double overtime to do it. And that's about it. So, but Texas offense is an entirely different beast.
Yeah,
it is a different beast altogether. So we'll see. But that'll be the question. I agree with you, though. That's a great point about even though the defense has been the most consistent part of an element of the team. In this game, they have the challenge. It feels like that's the challenge they have. As we've talked about with all the different elements and the different problems that Arkansas offense presents. The Texas offense, you know, they should be able to move the football against this Arkansas defense. It's a bad matchup for the Arkansas defense. They're bad at pass defense. That's Texas' strength. Yeah. they don't tackle well, so they allow a lot of yards after catch. Well, Sark's offense is a damn yak. It's a yak offense. That's the whole point. That's why everybody's upset that Quinn Ewers' his average depth of target is the lowest in the SEC, and that his yards per attempt is among the lowest in the country. And last game, they were really excited to see him throw the ball deep and go. I think he was 2 of 5 on deep passes, but 4 of those 5 were on the money. Just got dropped and bobbled by, DeAndre Moore, who had a bad game. So this is a game too where you should see Texas be able to complete some deep passes downfield. Remember Jackson Dart, 5 of 6 on passes 25 yards or more downfield. 5 of 6. 282 yards on deep passes against this Arkansas secondary. 3 touchdowns. Quinn should have some opportunities to attack them vertically down the field. So, yeah, it's just like I said, bad matchup. But we don't know what they came up with in the bye week, and Texas has to go on the road. They got to travel, and sometimes the passing game doesn't travel as well as the running game does.
Yeah.
And that could be, and it's a rivalry, so you have an emotional charge as a part of it. That's thank God it's at 11 a.m. for Texas. So we don't have to deal with Arkansas fans being too rowdy and too crazy at 11 a.m. They still might be, though. They might decide all-nighters. They're saying we're going all-nighters. They say, oh, they want to avoid the night game? Well, how about all-nighters then? We're all going to be crazy and wild and sleep-deprived and drunk anyway. And they might go that route because they've been waiting on this for a long time. Well, not long, since 2021, since they put an Old Testament style butt whipping on Texas then. And at least Sark understands now what it's all about. He knows that emotional charge is going to be a big part of it too. So we'll see. But that's a good question. Topic for the Big Fat Poll today. How many points will Texas score against the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday? All right, we'll get into, the Cowboys made a declaration. It's a little late, but that's okay. Better late than never. It's fine. You know what I mean? Sometimes there are certain decisions, right? We make the right decision, but it took us a little while to get there. We have to make the wrong decision first, right? To learn our lesson, and then that's what life's about. You learn your lesson, you realize, sometimes it's about trial and error. Screwed that up. Now I know I'm gonna do it different the next time, right? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, Cowboys decided they wanted to change course a little bit, and I agree with this move. We have not given the Cowboys props in a while, so we'll give them some props. Coming up, we'll also talk about the big matchups coming up in the NFL this weekend, Chiefs and the Bills. Also, we'll dive into the Ravens and the Steelers, really compelling matchup there, division showdown in the AFC North. We'll talk about that, but first, let's get updated, educated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks fell to the Jazz 115-113 last night after Dallas let John Collins get a go-ahead dunk with 6 seconds left, and Najee Marshall missed the game-winning three. Luka Doncic had 37.7 rebounds and 9 assists in a game Kyrie Irving missed due to a shoulder injury. Tonight, NBA Cup play resumes with the Spurs playing the Lakers and the Rockets taking on the Clippers, and Saturday, the Spurs and Mavericks face off in Dallas. In college basketball, Texas men take on Mississippi Valley State on Saturday after they were just beaten by Missouri by 72 points. And the Texas women play DePaul on Sunday evening. In college football, Longhorns play old rivals Arkansas on the road this weekend with an 11 a.m. kick. And elsewhere, number 22 LSU has a matchup with Florida. Number 21 South Carolina takes on number 23 Missouri. And number 7 Tennessee faces number 12 Georgia in a game with major playoff implications. And in the NFL, the Eagles pulled out a 26-18 win over the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Saquon Barkley led the way with 192 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in a game where both quarterbacks struggled to get going. Sunday, the Ravens and the Steelers face off in a big AFC North showdown, and the Bills welcome the Chiefs to Buffalo, trying to be the first team to beat Kansas City this season. On Monday, the Texans and Cowboys go head-to-head on Monday Night Football, and that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. We appreciate those. We'll also talk about the big fight tonight, Mike Tyson and versus Jake Paul. We'll get into that during Rod's rant a little bit. We'll dive into it, and of course, we'll continue to talk Texas versus Arkansas. But let's talk about the Cowboys. I'm glad they made the move. I think it's a little late, but at least they did. I saw Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram be the first to report it that I saw, but he said there is, quote from his tweet, "There is no more running back by committee in Dallas." Mike McCarthy said Rico Dowdle is the Cowboys' lead back. Definitely, you have to get him. This is the quote from Mike McCarthy. "Definitely, you have to get him the ball. That's my focus, to continue to get him opportunities. He's the lead back." I just said, what was it, early this week? I said, I wonder when they're going to extend him. Like, just get him, just sign him to a little contract extension. So you at least know who your backup running back is going to be, right? You start with baby steps for the Cowboys. And I said, man, I want to say it was probably after like week 3, maybe somewhere around there. I said the Cowboys need to make Rico Dowdle the lead running back. I was like, he's the best of your options there at running back. And turns out he is your best option at running back. How about this? The last 2 weeks, and it's not just the best option for the Cowboys. Actually, he's been one of the more productive backs in the league. 5.2 yards per carry the last 2 weeks. That's third best in the NFL. He's your highest graded offensive player, actually, by Pro Football Focus scores. He's top, if you'll look at rushing success rate, he's top 10 in rushing success rate among running backs. On the season, He has carried the ball 83 times for an average of like 4.5 yards, but recorded career highs in first down runs and rushing success rate. As I said, his rushing success rate right now is 55. It's pretty damn good. Success rate is when you get 50% of the yards needed to gain on first down, 70% of the yards needed to gain on second down, and on third down and fourth down, you get 100% of the yards needed. That's just the success rate in a nutshell. Some people do it a little bit differently, but that's it in a nutshell. And if you go look at, he's racked in the last 2 weeks, 24 rushes, 128 for 128 yards. I mean, he's been really productive. And I know compared to Zeke, I think Zeke's averaging like 3.2 yards per rush. But I'm glad they stated that. That to me is part of it. They should cut Zeke. I think that would be another step in the right direction. But Rico Dowdle, man, I'm telling you, he has shown me, and I thought it was obvious that he was your best option at running back a while ago. I'm glad the Cowboys have decided to, make it public and make it official that he's their best guy. That game versus Atlanta, man, he was great. Remember, he had a 58% success rate. He was averaging that week 9 performance, 6.3 yards per carry. He had 3 rushes of 10 plus yards. It's time to start giving him, 15 to 20 touches. Why not? You ain't got to.
No, I mean, and that's, I would cut Zeke and try and bring in some other guys, undrafted free agents, or guys that are just kind of waiting around, guys that maybe could be explosive playmakers for you, because Rico's not an explosive playmaker, but he's a great change of pace back for you. He's going to be your lead for the rest of the season. But yeah, he's not a bad back. It's just he's also not necessarily a starting back who can take you anywhere you want to go, because he doesn't have that explosive ability. He's not going to wait and find a big hole and go for it. He's just hitting holes.
Yep.
And so he'll hit it. He hits it quick and go.
Backup for you.
And great backup. So, somebody that you want to keep. And, Jerry, if you want to have those small victories, there's a victory that you were like, this guy's going to be better than you think he is. He's not a guy who should be cut. He was a guy that he kept trying to put on the roster all last season. People were not sure about it. So, I mean, take that victory when you get it, because, he deserves to be a backup getting carries on an NFL roster for sure. And so, for the rest of the season, keep working on his game a little bit more, giving him some more playing time, and then, put him in a stable next year with another guy, and he could be a really good back for you, and part of a really good running back stable if you put him with the right back.
Yeah, I would draft one in the middle to late rounds, draft a running back, and I would go, like you said, go get one, whether you trade for one or free agency, whatever. Go get one. I mean, it's worked out actually for a lot of teams.
Yeah.
This season, going to get whether the Texans who traded for one with Joe Mixon, or look at what we just watched last night with Saquon Barkley. So it seems to be a running back, renaissance happening, if you will. Yeah, exactly. I mean, so I'm
even if you look at what J.K. Dobbins is doing in L.A. with the Chargers.
Yeah,
J.K. Dobbins, a guy who's just been hurt for years and years in Baltimore, finally getting it going there in L.A.
We haven't talked about the Chargers really, because they're not really relevant to our conversations here.
They're on Sunday Night Football this week, though.
Yeah, that's what we'll get into. Yeah, so we haven't really seen them on a prime. Just that first prime time game. Maybe not that first, but the first one like nationally. So I think ultimately we'll get talking about it. Guys. They're the best defense in the league. Like the Chargers have the best defense in the league right now. It's crazy. That's not something that I thought we'd be talking about during the season. So I'm looking forward to getting into that a little bit too, because I did not realize that defense. I saw that stat the other day.
I think the Chargers may have done one of those Monday nights when there was 2 Monday night games, and they were like the secondary Monday game.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, no, you're right about that. That's exactly what it was. But if how about this, just real quick, and then we'll get back to talking about the kind of the marquee games and talking about the Cowboys. But how about this about the Chargers? The Chargers have allowed the most points they've allowed this season is 20 in their Week 3 loss to the Steelers. The Chargers have given up 17 points 3 times, 16 points once, 10 points twice, 8 points once, and 3 points once. The Chargers have allowed just 118 points in 9 games, an average of 13 points allowed per game. That is freakish. If they hold the Bengals to under 21 points, because that's the primetime game they're playing, right, against the Bengals, if they hold them to under 21 points Sunday night, they'll be the first defense that has held every opponent to 20 points or less through 10 games of the season since the 1990 Giants. Yeah, LT's Giants. Bill Belichick,
Yeah.
DC Giants. That Giants team, old Bill Parcells Giants team that was led with their defense. It'll be the first defense to hold all its first 10 opponents to under 21 points since then. I probably should have said this was stat for what the facts were the stats. I don't think about it. Perfect for that segment. Anyway, that defense held its first 10 opponents to less than 21 points, a start that season that had never been repeated until potentially these Chargers. They won the Super Bowl.
They got a tall task because that Bengals offense is rolling, but
they got the leader in receiving yards in Jamar Chase. I believe Joe Burrow is tied for the lead in touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
A tall task.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But like I said, I'm looking forward to it because I haven't gotten a chance to watch that Chargers defense, see what makes it so special. So I'm actually looking forward to that, and we'll talk about that game a little bit too. I guess we just did, but we'll get into it because I want to talk about the Ravens and the Steelers and the Chiefs and the Bills. But getting back to the Cowboys, thought that was a good move. Glad the Cowboys decided to make Rico Dowdle the guy. I think the only other decision related to Rico Dowdle that I'd like to see the Cowboys do, just extend him now. If you're going to make him a lead back and you have trust that he's going to be productive, which I think he is, it'll cost you a little bit. It'll cost you more at the end of the season. Just do it now. Yeah. And trust me, he'll be relatively cheap because he's going to be so happy and ecstatic.
Yeah. I mean, he's like $4.5 million a year, maybe
something like that. Yeah,
exactly. 4.5 a year.
He's give a nice signing bonus. He'd be thrilled. And you can start, and just like you said, then in the draft a running back in the middle rounds, and then go get one via free agency or a trade, and then boom, you back in business. Because I was wrong. I thought the Cowboys would have the least talented backfield in the NFL, and it still probably is, or maybe the hit that. But the Raiders,
I mean, when you have Rico Dowdle and then a 1.5 mile distance between the next back, probably not great.
Yeah, I was say probably still is, but that I did not expect the Rico Dowdle to step up the way he did. So I think it's like I said, bright spot for the Cowboys there. All right, let's I was going to talk about the Texans, but we got time to do that because that's a Monday night game anyway. Let's talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. The Chiefs, I brought this up yesterday. Man, the more research you do on the Chiefs, you realize how unique, I don't say special, it's just unique this 9-0 start is for the Chiefs. And so if you go look historically at 9-0 teams since in the Super Bowl era, and look at point differential, because right now I believe the Kansas City Chiefs are 9th in point differential right now in the NFL. The average 9-0 team has a point differential of plus 122. That means they win games on average by over 13.5 points per game. The Chiefs don't have a single win by that average, and they're plus 58 in their point differential. That is the worst point differential for any 9-0 team in the Super Bowl era. And it makes sense because they've won 4 games on the last play of the game, game-winning plays. Beat the Ravens that way. They just had another one with the field goal block. They had a walk-off field goal, I think, as well. Game-winning kick. They almost half of their wins they've won, via some miraculous game-winning play at the end. Like I said, they're very clutch. They're not necessarily they're not great. They're still good. All right. They're not great, but they are clutch. We haven't seen I don't know if we've seen a team be this clutch on a 9-0. I mean, that number kind of shows you haven't seen a team be this clutch who's 9-0. They're usually just, they're great teams or they win. That the only other team, they're 2 points behind the 2006 Colts. And 2006 Colts, who started 9-0, immediately lost their 10th game of the season. Do we see the inadequacies of Kansas City catching up to them on the road at Buffalo? Josh Allen is the guy to do it. If anybody can make you pay, but their defense to me is right now playing at a really high level. I think their defense, the issues are now rely on it's really how offensively the first couple of really the first 3 quarters of the game, they're really not in sync offensively, and they're really not in a groove offensively. But they, like I said, they just come up clutch. Fourth quarter, they're top 5 in fourth quarter scoring. If you go look at it, and so when they need to turn it on and flip the switch, they flip the switch. But they're the best third down team in the NFL. That once again, when they need to flip a switch, they flip a switch. They're 54% conversion rate on third and fourth downs. That's the best in the NFL. Only 2 teams are above 50%, and they are one of them. But if you go look at first and second down, go look like their EPA per play. They're 18th in the NFL. They're average. They're right around average. If you go look at EPA per play on first and second down, but on third and fourth down, they're first in the league. They're the number 1 team in the league on EPA per play on third and fourth down. They're the best third and fourth down team in the league, but they're an average first and second down team. Once again, they're not great. I think they're good, but they're clutch. And whether you're talking about situationally or you're talking about on a macro level, they're clutch. And they got the most clutch quarterback, right? Nobody's better and has a higher win percentage in fourth quarter comeback and game-winning drive situations than Patrick Mahomes. Nobody's better in one-score situations than Patrick Mahomes. He has a 70% win percentage in one-score games for any quarterback. That's the highest winning percentage for any quarterback in one-score games. So, like I said, he's clutch and they're clutch. So they're basically just starting to evolve into what kind of Patrick Mahomes' game is, which is, I don't know, I can flip the switch and I'm clutch when I need to be.
And our defense keeps us in everything. So we're never out of it.
No.
We never get, put out of it where we're 14, 20 points behind and I have to now pull off this huge comeback. It's always a score. So defense keeps us in it enough that then I can flip that switch and go, because we just don't get that far behind. And most of these other teams, if you were to play the way the Chiefs play, you don't have a defense that keeps them within a score.
Yep. Yeah, they're a top 5 defense. You can make the argument there if you want to say I think the rush defense, they are maybe not. They're not top. Maybe they're like top 3 in rush defense, but rush defense actually, that's what they've improved on the most. Like you can't really run the ball against the Chiefs. Now you can throw the ball against the Chiefs. I think they're just a top 10 pass defense, but the key is they have corners that can play press.
Yeah, and
they press more than most teams in the NFL. And with that being said, with those guys pressing, they take away your quick game. They take away the easy throws. You don't get easy throws versus the Chiefs, and that makes it a real. And when you got to block Chris Jones, and when you got Spagnuolo who likes to bring exotic blitzes from the second level, it's really problematic when they take away your quick throws. And it's like, okay, so now I have to look downfield every time, and Chris Jones is coming. He's the best pass rushing D tackle in the game. He's coming too. And he's a flipper switch guy. Have you noticed that about Chris Jones? Isn't he a flipper switch guy?
Yeah.
Or Chris Jones, you don't hear about him dominating like really during the season. It's like, oh, they're about to make a playoff push. Chris Jones in the playoffs. Nobody makes more impact plays on defense for any team in the playoffs than Chris Jones. He's kind of a flip the switch guy. They're a flip the switch team right now, in my opinion.
No, 100%. Yeah. And then this game on Sunday, I mean, a lot of it is, can you stay with Amari Cooper? Because I think Keon Coleman's still going to be out. So if you say you stay with Amari Cooper so that when Josh Allen goes out of the pocket, can they make scramble drills work? Because that's how you can attack this Chiefs defense a little bit more, is if you can get out and keep the ball alive. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that because they just don't have a ton of weapons. Yeah,
I mean, the Chiefs are actually, I'll take that back. Chiefs are outside of the top 10 in pass defense. Their rush defense, they're third in rush defense. They're third in rush defense. They're 5th in points per game allowed. Like I said, but the thing that makes their pass defense special is not really that they are stingy in pass defense. It's how their corners. It's that they allow their corners to come up and press so much. Most teams don't allow their corners to press like that. They are confident in their corners pressing, even after letting L'Jarius Sneed go, who was the best press coverage corner arguably in the league. That's just a Spagnuolo thing. And so I think that's how they compensate for, okay, yeah, you can get some yards against us. But when it counts, especially on third downs and situationally, that's where Kansas City, I think, has the advantage. And Spagnuolo has the advantage. And you can make the argument Spags is the best DC in the NFL if you want to as well. You can make that. And that's also the chess match that you have to win going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think for the Bills, like I said, I don't know what the line is now. I believe they've been an underdog. The Chiefs have been an underdog all week long. I'm not sure if the line has shifted. It's hard to go against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, man. And I understand that the Bills are probably playing better football overall. Like, that's possible. I haven't watched a ton, but I don't know if they're more clutch than the Kansas City Chiefs. So even on the road, and the odds against you are stacked heavily, right? Once you get to 9-0 or 10-0, of continue to go undefeated. So at one point, it's got to end. This is as likely as any game this season for them to lose. Like this, that's why I think that they're an underdog on the road, even though they're an undefeated team. I just don't think the Bills are the team to do it. I don't trust this Bills team yet. I don't. Even though Josh Allen has played like an MVP at times. I remember him versus the Texans. If I'm the Chiefs, I take that DeMeco Ryans game plan. Texans may have Texans you could make the argument have a better secondary in terms of pass defense than the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs got better personnel potentially than them, but I'd put my money on the underdog here. Anytime Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, I'll put my money on him. So, and when he's been an underdog, and we've given these numbers before, but I mean, there's no better quarterback in the league as a dog, actually in history as a dog. 11-3 straight up as an underdog, and he has 12-1-1 against the spread. Is Patrick Mahomes' record as an underdog. So take the man as a dog every time. All right, we'll talk about that Ravens-Steelers matchup too. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. But let's hit the break. We come back. We got Rod's rant. We'll hear from Mike Tyson. He got a big fight tonight versus Jake Paul. Even though you may not like it, hey, man, right? It is compelling. Whether you think it's going to be a good fight or not, that's a different discussion, but it is a compelling matchup. We'll talk about why that is the case. We'll dive into that and continue to talk some of the big football action that's coming up over the weekend, college and pro, right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let's talk about my friend and my dentist, Dr. Greg Eckert, and his fantastic team. I owe them a huge debt of gratitude. I initially went there for a routine cleaning and checkup. Their checkups are so thorough, in fact, that they found that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways, causing all types of damage. I was on the verge of a disastrous situation, but they did not allow that to happen. They worked quickly, made sure I was educated and informed about the situation and the process, and got my procedure scheduled, got everything done. I was back at work within a couple of days, and thanks to Dr. Eckert and his team, my dental health and dental hygiene have never been better, and they can do the same for you. Now, hopefully it's not as serious as having all your wisdom teeth extracted, but no matter if it is, you're in great hands with Dr. Eckert and his team. But any general dentistry, teeth whitening, porcelain crowns, dentures, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available, that's what Dr. Eckert and his team are all about. And right now, because of their technological advancements, they have the ability to give you a brand new smile in just one day, permanently secured to your dental implants. No time spent without teeth. You'll get temporary fixtures and complete your permanent smile. You'll smile again and eat freely without pain or discomfort. It's a lifelike permanent solution. So if you've been told your teeth need to be replaced, just call Dr. Eckert today to learn about this revolutionary alternative to dentures. It's a brand new smile in just one day, complimentary consultation, which means you got nothing to lose but everything to gain. I know you think it's sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's just Dr. U. So give him a call today because a confident smile can truly change your life, and he wants to change your life for the better. He did the same for me. He can do the same for you. Give him a call, 512-345-3166, 512-345-3166. And make sure you use those benefits before you lose those benefits. End of the year is coming up, and you want to make sure you use those to help you and your family. And my friend Dr. Record can help you do that. And if you tell Dr. Record and his team that you heard the message right here on the horn, you'll get free Zoom whitening with any treatment there at Dr. Record's office. drrecord.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Another big sporting event happening this weekend, or tonight actually, will be the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight on Netflix. I'm watching. All right, I got roped in, and Mike sealed the deal yesterday because he did some interviews, and they're promoting the fight. Of course, they had the weigh in yesterday too, which we'll get to because apparently there was an incident at the weigh in. And some people think, oh no, that's staged to promote the fight. Some people think, oh, it actually might have been authentic. We'll discuss. Either way, the fight's going to be real. But Mike, Mike Tyson, we've talked about this before. Like I do think Mike Tyson is just a rehabilitated like sociopath. Like he's now been he's done a good job of kind of rehabilitating not only his image but I think his soul. And now he is a beloved pop culture icon for everyone. But at one point, he was an unapologetic psychopath. Like he just didn't care. All right, he didn't care that people saw him that way either. And but now you see flashes of it. You don't see it like that's not who he is, but you see flashes of it. He was interviewed by a child, a little girl here. Like I don't know what is she probably probably 10 or 10 11 something
Man,
like that.
I'm not good with kids' ages, but she's young
She's
and
young.
she's very much doing the like
the
kid,
kid
like
yes,
here's the interview, and I'm gonna be a reporter when I grow up,
yes.
and so I'll ask the good questions now, and I'll go in, and it is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
It turns dark fast. Here it is.
And
Well, in your return to the ring for this fight, you are setting a monumental opportunity for kids my age to see the legend Mike Tyson in the ring for the first time. So after such a successful career, what type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. Legacy doesn't mean nothing. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Someone said that word and everyone grabbed on the word, so now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before, someone say that as an answer.
Can you really imagine somebody say, I want my legacy to be this way when you're dead? Why do you want somebody? Do you think somebody really wants to think about you? What's the audacity? I think I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the cares about me when I'm gone? Well, my kids, maybe, or grandkids. Who the fuck cares?
And again, thank you so much for sharing that.
She is such a professional. God bless that young lady. She is going to be a star. She's like, and thank you very much for sharing.
They need to put that in classes teaching about how to interview people. Like, oh, you think you know what they're going to say? Here's a guy just, wait, what do you want your legend to be? Who cares? I'll die.
Oh, to a child. Oh man.
To a
that
child.
Was
yeah.
Wow.
When she she's like, true.
She's like, true. Her reaction is also great. You just got to see when she realizes when the interview turns dark quick. She's like, oh no.
No, and she's trying to get out of it. You see, she's like trying to get out, and he keeps talking. Yeah, this is. I think Mike Tyson is really trying to drive home the message that he's off his meds.
Maybe he did it for the fight. He's like, no, I need to be crazy for this fight. So he's done some. Like I said, he's doing a good job of promoting the fight. So he did the weigh-in, and apparently at the weigh-in, he slapped Jake Paul at the weigh-in. And this is a clip that's gone viral of him slapping Jake Paul at the weigh-in, and then they're immediately separated. And it looks like they're going to get into a scuffle. And everybody, some people saying, "Oh, it's a stunt to promote the fight, that kind of thing." But the people who are on the other side who think it's authentic, they are saying that Jake Paul came to the stage before the slap and he gestured or was, I don't know, acting like he was an ape. Like as he was approaching the stage, because that part is not in the clip. I did see that part, but that wasn't in the clip that went viral. And then he steps on Mike Tyson's feet, or like steps on his feet. And apparently that's something that sets Mike Tyson off. I did not know this. And then Mike Tyson's we have this clip of Mike Tyson talking about that. So it's the people that think it's authentic. They're like, no, if you know Mike's got a thing about his feet. I didn't even know this was a thing. I swear I didn't know it was a thing. You got to really be a Mike Tyson fan to know this. So apparently when Jake Paul was approaching the ring, he steps on Mike Tyson's feet. And apparently they said that's what set him off. They've done research. They got the videos of him actually stepping on his feet. And I've seen it. He does step on his feet, and he did walk to the stage like he was an ape. I didn't know if that was him making fun of Mike Tyson or not. And I didn't know if that actually angered Mike. We have no idea. But anyway, here's Mike Tyson. This is from back in the day of him talking about MMA, but listen to this is why they think, oh no, it was him stepping on his feet that really set Mike off, because he's got a thing about his feet, and here's Mike admitting that.
I don't know what I would do in the UFC because I watched the UFC a couple of times and I watched these guys step on people's feet, and I have the worst feet in the world, right? And if somebody step on my feet, I would totally tap out. I would just give up. It would be a no-brainer.
I didn't even know this thing. Like, okay, who knows Mike Tyson's like weakness? It was his feet. So and maybe Jake Paul knows this. He's like, nah, man, I'm gonna stepping on your feet. And again, like, who knows? Like, but I don't know if it was real or fake. What do you think, Patrick? Real or fake? The slap?
I don't. It feels a little.
It feels a little fake. But I don't know.
It feels like Jake Paul could have said, "Man, if you want to go for it, go for it. Like, go, do whatever you're gonna do. Like, don't. Here's the rules. Don't do this and that. But if you want to slap me or whatever, you can do that." And it feels like maybe there was a discussion beforehand.
Man, giving somebody the okay to slap you, but it's for millions of dollars. I guess I would give somebody the okay to slap me too. Like, no, you realize if we give more people to watch, it's millions of dollars. All right, slap me if you come to time, it's all good. But no, that happened at the weigh-in, and Mike's been giving interviews. Can we come on the interview where he talks about he's being interviewed, and he says he thinks Jake's in trouble. We have this one from Mike. This was an interview Mike did a couple of days ago, leading up to the fight.
Mike, how is your health? You obviously had the health scare.
I'm just fine, brother. I'm just fine.
And what do you make of Jake Paul?
Well, I think he's a great person. As a fighter, I think he's inferior.
And how do you expect him to be in the build-up this week? He was quite antagonizing in the press conference.
The only thing that matters is what happens in the ring. He can say whatever he wants. In the ring is when the party begins. Then we're going to find out, can he party with the big boys?
And how does that party end?
Smashing.
And how do you think the fight will go on Friday night?
I think Jake's in a lot of trouble.
All right, so what do we think here? 30-year age difference between the two. Father Time is undefeated. Yeah. I know this because he is kicking my you-know-what every day.
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah, I'm what? 18 years younger than Mike Tyson, and it hurts me to get out of bed in the morning. And
it hurts, man. The old injuries, they add up. Yeah. Do we think Mike Tyson? I'm rooting for Mike. I am. But let's talk about it from an objective perspective. Do we think Mike is going to beat?
No, I think it's
30 years.
It's like that 10% chance of does Jake Paul get too cocky at some point and Mike catches him? That's about what you're hoping for is Mike catch him. Because I think what Jake Paul is going to do is dance around enough. And if you get through maybe 2 rounds with Mike, you're probably good because he's going to be too tired.
Yeah, he's going to wear him.
I mean, that's how Mike's always been. Early. Yeah, you got to go early. So once you get through those first couple rounds, I know Mike got them shortened to 2-minute rounds to make himself not as gassed. Yeah. But no, it feels as if it's going to be Jake Paul, and all this is kind of a build-up, and then he's already come out and said who he wants to challenge next, and he's already reports that he wants to go after Canelo, and
basically and Vegas has him favorite as well. They have him favorite, so because he's 30 years younger. Which
he's 58 years old. Because it's just at 58 years old is hard to go out there and then get into a ring with somebody who can take punches better, who can, like, even if you're crazy, but you're 58, you just don't take punches as well.
I mean, you used to be the best fighter on the planet. You still are one of the most feared humans on the planet, but man, I don't know if Mike's got that stamina anymore. He didn't have a lot of stamina back then, but the stamina now at 58, I'm with you. I think if you get him past 3 rounds, he's done. Like the fight's over.
Yeah,
the fight's over at 3 rounds.
No, that's
Mike
I remember.
Doesn't make a move.
This is what I remember, and this was 2 guys that were gone, but it was like Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice doing a fight, and there was a point in the fight where Ken Shamrock flipped him over, put him in a chokehold, and he had added the wrestling, and he couldn't choke him out. Just couldn't do it.
Just didn't have the stamina.
Didn't have the stamina and the strength, and just sat there. And it was like 3 minutes, and the round ends, and Kimbo gets back up, and you're like, "Oh no!" Like, and then the fight it was just 2 guys who were just gassed, just couldn't do anything, leaning on each other, and you're like, it was, you had that father time where you're like that little bit of extra where you would, 15 years ago, that guy would have been begging for his life. Yep. Now it's like, well, hugging me.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm with you. I said I want Mike to win. Honestly, and we could see it. It could be, like you said, Jake Paul getting arrogant, putting his face out there, maybe taunting Mike a little bit, and Mike can catch him. But man, if it goes past 2 or 3 rounds, I'm with you. I don't think Father Time is going to allow Mike to be able to pull off that kind of upset victory. And Mike is the underdog here too. Is a weird thing. So many good storylines. Mike is the underdog. Father time conversation. Everybody wants to see Jake. Everybody hates Jake Paul. Well, the older generation hates Jake Paul. The younger generation, they love Jake Paul. So you got the old versus the young thing. It's compelling, and the numbers will be huge. I don't know how they're going to determine it now, because it used to be about pay-per-view buys, and it won't be that. But Mike Tyson still has drawing power, and that's what we'll see. It's amazing how many people are going to stick around just so they can watch Mike, old generations and new generations. So it'll be a good payday for him. I just hope, Mike, hope he not only just doesn't embarrass himself, but I hope he knocks him out. I'm rooting for it. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
No, I don't think it will, but man,
it'd be sweet if it did. We'd be celebrating it. Like everybody, America would be celebrating.
They would shut down phone networks with the text messages being sent. All people slowly texting each other, then retyping it because they had a typo in the first one.
Yes, it would be. It would unite a lot of America, and we need that right now, because I think a lot of us just want to see Jake Paul get knocked the F out. All right, we'll come back. What the facts, what the stats on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for What the Facts, What the Stats here on the show. All right, how about this one? Saquon Barkley now has 9 touches, which have ended at the 1-yard line, most of all in football. And here's how those 9, the subsequent play, how the subsequent play went after his touch that got him down to the 1-yard line. Hurts touchdown, Hurts rush, next play, Hurts touchdown, a Saquon rush that lost yardage, Hurts passing touchdown, Hurts rush that fumbled, and then a Hurts touchdown. Every time Saquon gets him down to the 1, Jalen Hurts ended up getting a rushing touchdown, which for Saquon Barkley has got to be, I guess, maybe a little bit frustrating, but hey.
Well,
man,
for fantasy owners, that's the ones that always hate it. So those touchdown vultures.
Yeah.
Like that would always be those running backs who would run for, 65 yards on a drive, and then they put in the big guy to score the touchdown. You're like, man, that's 6 points I didn't get right there. Take away my touchdown.
That's why Jalen Hurts leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns over the last 4 seasons, because that's basically been the model for the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
No matter who they've had there. That's crazy. He leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns over the last 4 years. Derrick Henry is second with 47. He's got 49.
That's crazy.
That's what. Isn't that crazy?
Tush push, man.
Yeah, that's just exactly what it was. And they don't do the tush push as much anymore.
No, because they don't have the Hall of Famer at center anymore.
Yeah, you got Jason Kelsey. Yeah, turns out he was the secret sauce to the tush push there. All right, what the facts, what the stats? How about this one? The Bengals. Anybody said best bad team in football? They're 2-3 when scoring at least 33 points. The rest of the NFL is 39-1 in such games. Isn't that crazy? That's the best bad team in football, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see them against the Chargers Sunday night too. How about this stat? We were talking about the Chiefs and how the Chiefs, they play average football basically for 3 quarters, and then the fourth quarter they show up, or their clutch gene is really what stands out this year. How about this? The 3-7 Saints have spent more time leading than the 9-0 Chiefs. Yeah, that's crazy, right? Because they've won 4 games on the last play of the game. I mean, they've won 4 games, literally.
And those Saints boat raced those teams at the beginning of the season.
Yep. Yeah.
So they basically had 2 full games worth of leads.
Pretty much. And the Chiefs have had only half of their games where, well, these 4 of the 9 games, they've won the last damn play of the game.
Yeah, so they have almost no time.
They weren't leading. Yeah, they weren't leading the whole game. They may have been leading in the fourth quarter or at one point, but no, they basically had half of that time as a leader. I think the numbers are here's 4 25 42 for the Saints. It's the time they spent leading. The Chiefs are at 4:02:05. So 4 hours, 2 minutes, and 5 seconds, and the Saints are at 4 hours, 25 and 42. So like game time, I guess it is actual game time. But there you go. And that just shows you exactly how this Chiefs team is winning, man. They're just winning with the clutch gene. And I haven't seen a team this clutch in a long time. Even the Patriots were as clutch as it gets. I don't know the Patriots might have had some of these actually.
No, this, how they're being,
but not during their undefeated stretch. No,
yeah.
I'm just talking about period during the dynasty.
Like if your dad would yell at you for leaving the lights on or having the AC or all of that, that's how the Chiefs use that on off switch for them. They do not turn that on more than they need it.
That's true.
They turn that switch on like the Andy Reid is just like, what? We're just wasting this championship. Turn off the switch.
It's like they don't want. It's like they're gonna run out of it or something. It's
Exactly.
like they run out of power. They're like, nah, man, we gotta save it. We only gotta find out a mountain here. I'm with you. It's amazing. I said they only do it on third downs when they need to do it, and fourth downs, and they do it in the fourth quarter. Only in the games and I think they do it too in the playoffs. They flip that switch. We've seen it too. So we'll see in a big game against the Bills where they need to flip that switch a little bit more. than, or a little bit earlier in the game, I should say, than just in the fourth quarter. All right, there you go. So we'll get to some more Texas football discussion on the other side. Got the availability report to talk about. We'll also dive into last night's game. The Eagles have now taken control of the NFC East. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Commanders a little bit. Have they hit a wall? And we'll also dive back into some Sark audio when we go behind the burnt orange curtain as well next hour. This hour, I should say. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a freak flag, feel good, fake it till you make it. Ric Flair, woo! 512 football Friday edition of the Rodcast. And the 512 means that my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, he is playing jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Havens, and he is playing Friday this afternoon at the Hill Country Galleria.
Oh, there you go. So this weekend, expecting some nice weather this weekend. It's chilly outside.
Hey, man, it's hoodie weather. You get that hoodie weather on.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I love that hoodie weather because then, like if I got to run to the store real quick or something, I don't really got to get there. You just put the hoodie on and you can go to the store.
And it's acceptable. Just put the hoodie on. Otherwise, people look at you crazy.
Yeah, because if you're just wearing like a shirt or something like that, you're like, I don't really want to go to the store. We just like
shirt got stains on it or something like that.
Hoodie on it.
Holes in it.
Walk right out the door. You're good to go.
I feel you on that. That's true. Yeah. I need to start getting my hoodie, break the hoodies out. Honestly.
No, that's I have
week
one
of hoodie weather.
I have one that hangs like on my closet. It's just kind of been there all year. I didn't put it away at the end of last year, just like it's there.
Ready to go. No, I'm with you. And I love this kind of weather too, because I'm tired of sweating. I'm sweating.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Been sweating all year long. Now I got some weather where I don't got to worry about sweating like early in the morning. All right. I don't like to sweat early in the morning. So
I don't like to get done with the show at 10 a.m. and they're like, how am I sweaty?
I'm sweaty. I think, yeah, exactly. You already feel sweaty. Nope, you ain't got to deal with that because fall is here. Actually, I'm a little chilly. I think I need to actually start. I'm doing some. I need a heater or something out here. That's all. That's a good thing. So hopefully, maybe I start doing my show in a hoodie. There you go. Got to break out the hoodie for the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Boom. There you go. All right. Patrick also has the topic for the big fat poll of the day that is posted at the Horn ATX on X. Patrick, what is the topic for the big fat poll of the day?
How many points will Texas score against Arkansas? I gave you 4 options: 0 to 14, 15 to 24, 25 to 34, and 35 plus. Right now, 25 to 34 is taking the lead with 56% of the votes, 35% for 35 plus, 15 to 24 has 10% and nothing for 0 to 14.
Nothing. Yeah.
So once again, Arkansas people they haven't, got their gas powered computer back up and running.
No, I think Arkansas people, I've heard, I try to, drop in on some Arkansas sites and some Arkansas chatter. And the talk is that they're being too realistic, meaning it's hate week for Texas. Don't be talking about how, well, Texas probably it's a bad matchup for Arkansas and Texas is going to come in and score this many points versus Arkansas. Their fans actually now, they can't get into the spirit of hate week because reality is setting in. They can't suspend disbelief because the disparity in the two teams that is too stark. You know
what? That goes along with what our texter Oklahoma Greg said yesterday, that he got tickets and said there was a lot available and he got some good tickets for way less than they cost to Texas. So maybe there's just a lot of people there. They're like, man, we got our big win in Tennessee. We got that win, but I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think that and that Ole Miss loss too. I mean, think about that. Yeah. The 63 to 31. I think that hurt them a little bit as well because
doing in that in a bye week.
Yep, and then you had the LS. So basically, in the last 2 of your last 3 games, I guess have been blowout losses because you lost to LSU at 34-10. I don't know how I got to go look and see how the game went because I didn't watch that game. But losing 34-10, I mean, you still lost 34-10 in the end. That's considered a blowout loss because you lost by more than 3 touchdowns. And then the Ole Miss loss where, I mean, you gave up, 500 yards passing, over 500 yards passing to Jackson Dart. He just had his way with your defense. Had his way. I mean, that was ugly. I mean, that's the greatest game he's ever played. In the last 2 weeks, actually, you've allowed basically 800 passing yards, over 800 passing yards in the last two games.
All right, let's make it 1,200.
Yeah, right. No, actually, in the last 3 games, you've allowed over 1,000 yards passing because Gus Nussmeier went for 233. So in the last 3 games, you've allowed over 1,000 yards passing.
Yeah, no, we got to add on to that one.
So to me, I think that's what the fan base is looking at, and they're like, Texas coming in with that offense.
Well, and two, if you look at what Texas did to Florida, where it was just so spread around. where it's not
yeah.
a thing of you can
Yeah,
if
who
you
you gonna
shut
take
down
away?
one guy, or if you can slow him down, you can slow this offense down. Quinn can spread the ball around so well that
Agreed.
you just if there's any leaks in that defense, Texas can find them, and they just found them over and over again against Florida. And if you can't tackle against Texas and those downfield blocks, you're going to be going on and not necessarily the best tackles against guys who are really good in space. It's not the recipe, but again, it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. Sometimes guys learn how to tackle in rivalry games. Sometimes
That's true. No, you're right. They play at an elevated level.
Yeah, sometimes guys just figure it out. All of a sudden, they make big plays because it's you talk about especially early, a turnover or two early, and how that can change the game and complexion of the game. If they just use that O line and they're able to push the D line back a little bit and just run clock, all of a sudden it becomes a game. And once it's a game at halftime, and that Arkansas team can wake up a little, or the Arkansas fan base can wake up a little bit more,
I agree with that.
and they come out in the second half and they're going crazy, then that's where it becomes a little bit more difficult. So for Texas, you got to attack early.
No, I'm with you on that. I think that's the fast start's going to be key for Texas. If they get the fast start, this thing can end up being a blowout. They get the slow start. Like you said, self-inflicted wounds early. This could be way more interesting than it needs to be for Texas, especially going against a rival, and then you're on the road as well. And I was looking at it that Arkansas pass defense, it's the worst pass defense they face, other than I think UTSA was worse statistically. I'm not getting into personnel and all that stuff. Talking about statistically, I believe that's the worst, but I believe it's the worst power for pass defense that Texas has faced. And what did Texas score versus UTSA? Oh, 56 points. And so look at the passing numbers for Texas versus UTSA. Texas, Arch, remember that's the one that Quinn gets hurt in.
Yeah.
Arch comes in. Texas still threw for 427 yards against that team. Hell, Trey Owens even got in on it. That is the only pass defense they've played that is ranked lower than Arkansas's pass defense right now. Florida's pass defense actually was better. They were ranked 90th if you look at their pass defense. And that was a bad matchup. They also were missing an average of 12 tackles per game, or close to it. Had missed, I think, something like 95 tackles already during the season. So it was a bad matchup because they couldn't tackle Texas in open space, as we saw.
Yes.
Right, several of those big plays because Texas just broke one tackle, then boom, went to the house, or at least got a big chunk yardage play. Very similar situation with Arkansas. Arkansas a worse pass defense in Florida, but they give up the 9th most yak yards after the catch in all of college football. That's a bad matchup going up against Texas as a top 5 offense in generating yards after the catch. So, it's the way it's looking. I can see why some of the Arkansas faithful are going, I'm not going to be a part of that. That could end up being, another boat racing, if you will. Not participating in that.
No, an 11 a.m. game. Again, good thing for Texas, because if it's a 7 p.m. game, 6 p.m. game, everyone gets a little bit more up for it. And now, okay, well, that's an event now. It's an event at 6, 7 p.m. At 11, it's not quite the event. It's a game at 11.
No, you're right about that. And I didn't think about the last 2 blowout losses for them to LSU and Ole Miss. Ranked teams have actually been at home too, right? They've been at home with those because they went on the road to Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they did. They had the big win at Tennessee. Big win against Tennessee. That was at home.
Yeah.
But then their last 2 home losses have been to ranked teams, and they've been blown out. So you have some frustration, I'm sure, on the part of their fan base. Yeah. And they probably should have. They came close to beating the Aggies, remember?
Yeah.
They were close. That was a 21-17 loss against the Aggies, and that was at home. See, the thing about it, they had those big games all at home. Basically, that stretch of big games versus A&M, versus Tennessee, versus LSU, and versus Ole Miss, all at home.
So next year they're screwed.
Yes,
because
you're right. Because
they
just flip them. Yeah, you're right. They flip it.
Ooh, that's not good for
them. They
are
screwed. Yeah, great point. I didn't think about. They were like, oh yeah, you're right. Next year they are screwed. They should have talent coming back though in offense.
I know. I'm not saying they're screwed as a team. I'm just saying they got to play a lot of road teams.
Yes.
Like they got a lot of games at home this year That they have to play on the road next year. Is all I'm saying. I'm not
a
not
lot of
commenting on
power
their team.
teams.
Yeah.
No. You're right about that. I totally agree with you. That is, that's and they got it. Yeah, you're right about that. At least they get. Oh man, you're right. Damn, that's a lot for Arkansas. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, when you just named off all the teams they played at home, that's
and
rough.
Texas at home.
Yeah,
I did. Oh, we might be looking at a Florida type scale. Those teams are actually good next year.
Yeah,
it's kind of run like a stretch.
Yeah,
I don't
if you
think
have to
anybody
play
have that
Tennessee,
many road
Ole Miss,
games.
Texas, LSU,
A&M?
all on the road. A&M all on the road.
Ooh,
that's not fun.
Oh, man.
Not fun for anybody.
That is not fun. Man, I'm sure you just depressed some Arkansas fans who hadn't thought about it. They're like, oh, damn. I thought we was going to end the season and then we have to have a fresh start. Now you're telling me we got to go on the road? Yeah, you got to go on the road and play some powerhouses. All right, so we'll talk more Texas versus Arkansas. Coming up, we go behind the Burners curtain. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian as well. But I want to talk about the game last night. We'll get into it. Philadelphia taking command, if you will, of the NFC East after a big win over the Commanders. We'll dive into it. But first, let's get the Horn headlines. So let's get educated. Let's get updated. Let's get informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks fell to the Jazz 115-113 last night after Dallas let John Collins get a go-ahead dunk with 6 seconds left, and Najee Marshall missed the game-winning three. Luka Doncic had 37 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists in a game Kyrie Irving missed due to a shoulder injury. Tonight, NBA Cup play resumes with the Spurs taking on the Lakers and the Rockets playing the Clippers. And Saturday, the Spurs and Mavericks face off in Dallas. In college basketball, Texas men take on Mississippi Valley State on Saturday after they were just beaten by Missouri by 72 points. And the Texas women played DePaul on Sunday evening. In college football, the Longhorns play old rivals Arkansas on the road this weekend with an 11 a.m. kick. And elsewhere, number 22 LSU has a matchup with Florida. Number 21 South Carolina takes on number 23 Missouri. And number 7 Tennessee faces number 12 Georgia in a game with major playoff implications. And in the NFL, the Eagles pulled out a 26-18 win over the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Saquon Barkley led the way with 192 purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in a game where both quarterbacks struggled to get going. Sunday, the Ravens and Steelers face off in a big AFC North showdown, and the Bills welcome the Chiefs to Buffalo, trying to be the first team to beat Kansas City this season. On Monday, the Texans and Cowboys go head-to-head on Monday Night Football, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Appreciate those. And let's get to the Eagles last night versus the Commanders. It felt like the Eagles had control of the game, even though they didn't have the lead for most of the game. Crazy to think that actually the Commanders had the lead in that game going into the fourth quarter. And it was Saquon Barkley that really came up clutch for them. I mean, in the fourth quarter, that's when he really went to work. It seemed like that's when he woke up. He had that 43-yard catch and run that set up that Jalen Hurts 1-yard quarterback sneak. That was early in the fourth quarter. And then late in clutch time for the Eagles, man, Saquon Barkley had that he had that 23-yard touchdown run. That was just under 5 minutes left. That gave the Eagles a 2-score advantage. Then Jane Daniels had the pick. After the pick, he had that 39-yard touchdown run. That gave him his 146 rushing yards on the day and 2 touchdowns. And this season, guys, he's been doing that to everybody. I mean, he had 198 scrimmage yards in that matchup. 52 of them came via the air on 2 receptions. But this is the fastest he's ever gotten to 1,000 yards. Took him 10 games to get to 1,000 yards. Fastest he's ever gotten there. He leads the NFL right now in rushing yards and scrimmage yards to go with 10 total touchdowns. So basically, him and Derrick Henry kind of been going back and forth for the rushing title. And they're both with new teams too. So that running back renaissance that Patrick was talking about continues to happen. And what he's done is that late in games, because he's on a tear last 5 games, 773 scrimmage yards, 6.2 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns. The man's, running like somebody possessed. But he, in the second half of games, that's really been the key, just like in this matchup, right? The Eagles were pounding the rock, and then finally the dam breaks, because you just can't hold up with that running game, defending Jalen Hurts in the running game as well, and Saquon Barkley throughout 4 quarters. In the first half of games so far this season, Saquon Barkley's only averaging 4 yards per carry. Yeah. And a 2.1% explosive rush rate. But then the second half of games, his rushing yards per carry jumped from 4.2 to 7.2. They jump up 3 yards. His explosive rush rate, it goes from 2% to 12.6% in the second half. He just, as the defense wears down, he revs up. And it's a problem for defenses. And you saw it was problematic for the Commanders, and the dam broke. I thought Dan Quinn actually did a decent job game planning against them, but they stay faithful and loyal to the run game. I told you yesterday they're on pace for like 600, like 618, I think, something like that, rush attempts on the season, which would, I think the record is like 680. 681 or something like that, but they are faithful to the run game because they understand at one point the dam is going to break. And when the dam breaks, Saquon Barkley, he's going to run wild. That's exactly what he did last night. Dude went off. And you know what? I thought that Derrick Henry was a shoe-in for the Offensive Player of the Year. He's not, because Saquon might be it. The Eagles are on pace for 612 rush attempts this season. The record in a season is 681. So even in this modern age, to come close to that record is pretty wild. To be on a pace that's even close to the record is pretty crazy. Because that was like in the 70s, I think, when the Raiders set that record. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to it, they are starting finally figuring out who they are offensively, that the identity of this offense, and it's built around the run game. And Kellen Moore now is figuring out what plays and what concepts are most compatible with Jalen Hurts and with Saquon Barkley. They got a lot of new pieces, new OC, new running back. Remember, Jalen Hurts now is taking more of an executive role in the offense. He's the one that's setting the protections. That's brand new in a new system. So it might take a while for it to kind of find their rhythm in the offense. I think they found it. I think they know what the rhythm of I think they know what the identity of the offense is now, built around their running game.
Yeah, I think they maybe were trying to not. I think they were trying to be a little bit more complimentary, and then you just got to go with what your strength is. And right now it's running the football. So I think they were trying to still, you're paying Devontae Smith and AJ Brown a ton of money. So you probably were thinking, let's be a passing team first, and then we'll have Saquon to help us out. And you realized, nope, Saquon's the best player. Why are we fighting this battle?
Yep. Work smarter, not harder. Because giving the ball to Saquon is smarter. He has as many games with 140 plus rushing yards this season as the Giants do. That's gotta hurt. He has the most rushing yards. If you go look at the most rushing yards per game in the second half, remember I told you about second half and overtime in the last 30 years. So we're talking about the last 30 years. Saquon Barkley is leading all running backs in the last 30 years in rushing yards per game in the second half of games. 73.8 in 2024. You know who's second? Derrick Henry in 2024 at 73.2. That's a scary thought, that those guys are getting better in the second half. They're better backs in the second half than they are in the first half. As you are worn down, those guys are starting to rev up. The third on the list, Jamal Anderson. That also makes sense if you remember watching Jamal Anderson in 1998. And then Barry Sanders in 1997 was averaging 68 rushing yards per game in the second half, and that's fourth all time. So the two top, not fourth in the last 30 years. So the two top performers in yards per game, rushing yards per game in the second half, are in the 2024 season. It's Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. That's crazy. But getting back to it, though, I do think the Philadelphia Eagles, they figured out who they are. So they got their offensive identity, and it's built around the run game. And AJ Brown he's the offensive piece that puts them over the top. Because you may be able to figure out, and Dan Quinn did it for 3 quarters, how to at least limit the running game to keep the running game from overwhelming you. But it's hard to do that and then also be able to match up with a top 5 wide receiver on the outside. And one of the better, secondary pieces at wide receiver, better number 2 wide receivers in the league in Devontae Smith. And that's what puts them over the top. in addition to the quarterback running game, you got to account for Saquon Barkley and the power running game themselves. Then you got to account for, hey, those guys can just win one-on-ones if you decide to stack the box, and that's what they do really, really well. I believe the number now is the Eagles this year when A.J. Brown's available and plays, they're 7-0, and they're 1-2 when he doesn't play. 1-2 when he doesn't play this season, and 7-0 when he does play. So says right there at how important he is to their offensive structure. But getting to the Washington Commanders, I said this yesterday. I don't know if it's the case, but it's just the theory. They may be, hitting the wall. And doesn't mean they're not going to win any more games. Just means like there's now enough of a sample size on a new quarterback with a new offense that teams know exactly how to game plan against them when they didn't know early on in the season. I still think Cliff Kingsbury is doing a good job, but Cliff Kingsbury's offenses, when he was a head coach and an OC, they often would hit a wall, whether at Tech or whether with Arizona. He would hit a midseason wall, and then they would, a lot of the offensive productivity would decline. And I'm not saying that's happening now, but last two games it has declined. Could just be playing two really good teams, two really good defense. Steelers are a top 5 defense, and you'll look at the Philadelphia Eagles, also a top 10 defense. Those are legit defenses with great defensive minds. So it could just be that, or it could be all of the things together. It could just be Jay Daniels was hitting the rookie wall, the Cliff Kingsbury wall that we talk about. First half of the season, I think his teams averaged around 27 points per game. But then in the second half of the season, that productivity dropped down to around 21 points per game on average. So that's just been Cliff Kingsbury's offenses. But Jaden Daniels, all rookies, they hit a wall, and maybe he's hitting his. And I just wonder if those things may be happening at the same time, or if it's just, hey, they played two really good defenses and now have taken back-to-back losses, and they can bounce back where they play a team that's not as good as the Eagles or 8-win team, or the Steelers, who maybe they're 7-win team, one of the best teams in the NFL too. That could be the case. I think it may be a little bit of all of those things and in combination, because last night the wide receivers couldn't get open for them. I mean, Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, as they like to call him, didn't have a target in the first half. That's not good. They got to figure out a way to be able to get their best players to football. And when you go look at the passing game, the vertical passing game, Jaden Daniels only had one completion past 10 yards. He was 1 of 5 for 10 yards and had an interception in that on passes vertically down the field. So he was excelling in that area early on in his rookie campaign. So they got to get back to how they get the ball, stretch the ball vertically, getting the ball to our playmakers down the field. They only had, I believe, 4 or 5 wide receivers they call passes in that game versus the Eagles. So they got to get their vertical playmakers more involved. But they still had a lead for 3 quarters. After 3 quarters, going into the fourth quarter of that game, just couldn't find a way to hold on. I think a lot of it is the lack of complementary football too. Also something that is problematic with Cliff Kingsbury's offenses. They had 5 possessions that lasted less than 2 minutes. Yeah, you can't have that. They gotta, and not in the NFL, you can't have it. College maybe, not in the NFL.
No, but I mean, any sport, you can't just keep doing the same thing. And so if it continues to be, if you go to, 3 and out twice quickly, that third possession, like, let's run the ball a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Let's waste some time just solely to give our defense a little bit more time.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's run the ball on first down. Don't snap the ball until there's 2 or 3 seconds left on the clock. Mm-hmm. Run the ball on second down. All right, 2 or 3 seconds. All right, let's go for it on third and figure out what we got to do from here. But hopefully we'll be in a third and manageable, and we can go what we want to do. But let's do this to, at least run some time off the clock, as opposed to, maybe one run play and maybe one scramble play, but just trying to throw the ball over and over and over again.
Yep, and some of that includes turnovers too, but that's just as bad, right? Actually worse, because at least you get to punt if it's 3 and outs. So, yeah, they got to figure that out. That's not complimentary football, and they need to play complimentary football. That's really how I think they could have pulled off a win here is it they just limited the possessions for Philadelphia? But after a while, I think the defense got worn out, the dam broke, and then Saquon Barkley went crazy. All right, we come back. We'll get into the availability report for the Texas-Arkansas game. We'll hear from Steve Sarkisian talking about their upcoming opponent, and we'll continue to preview this matchup, the X's and O's, the X factors in these Texas-Arkansas game coming up this weekend. We'll do that when we come back. We go behind the burn orange curtain right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to some Texas football conversation as we go behind the burnt orange curtain to talk about the Longhorns' upcoming matchup with the Arkansas Razorbacks. We've been telling you all week long that Taylor Green is going to be the most talented quarterback that Texas has faced so far this year, just overall in terms of the most dangerous threat, in terms of the problems that he presents as a dual threat quarterback with his legs, as a ball carrier when he decides to scramble, design quarterback runs, but also as a passer, much more skilled passer than we give him credit for. And I know Carson Beck is going to get drafted high in the upcoming draft, but Carson Beck's playing some of the worst football of any Power Four starting quarterback right now in the country. He just is. He's on a really bad stretch of football that he's playing. So here's Sark when he was asked about Taylor Green, and I think Sark agrees with our assessment that Taylor Green's going to be the most dangerous quarterback that you faced so far.
I would say so. I mean, it's one to have the running ability and the throwing ability, but it's the size factor as well. I think he's 6'6", probably close to 240 pounds. And so his ability to get out of the pocket, extend plays, then use his legs. I think the scheme has really helped. So I think Coach Petrino, Coach Pittman do a great job of giving the design quarterback runs, the zone read stuff, but then also the pro style passing game is very taxing. And so he poses a heck of a challenge for us.
He does. I think one of the things that could, and by the way, he's actually a more skilled passer than we give him credit for on passes 10 yards or more down the field. The Pro Football Focus has him 15th in the country in passing grade. Overall passing grade, the Pro Football Focus has him at 84, which is 12th nationally. So they got him as a pretty skilled passer. They keep the passing concepts relatively simple. I think he's most dangerous when they throw out the all verts concept, when they got big wide receivers. They're wide receivers in heavy rotations. Andrew Armstrong, who we'll talk about, he's one of the best wide receivers in the country. He'll play on Sundays. He's 6'4". Tesla is 6'4". Broden 6'7". They got size. They go all verts. They can be dangerous, just boxing you out on the outside. And in addition to that, so you want your safeties deep over the top in case they do have some some balls they're trying to high point or 50-50 balls that they're throwing up. So you want to keep your safeties deep over the top. And then they're dropping back linebackers on those all verts too to cover the seams. And what that leaves open is a lot of green grass for a dual threat quarterback to decide to tuck the ball and scramble. Unless you got a spy on him. Now you got a spy on him, that's great, but spy also that's open field. So you better a damn good spy. That's when we'll get to Anthony Hill. Could be Colin Simmons. Could be Leon Galafau. Could be David Benda. Could be a lot of different guys. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, he just presents so many different problems on so many levels in the quarterback design run game. And on passing plays, you almost have to defend 3 plays in one. Defend the initial play, defend the scramble drill, and then defend him as a ball carrier, which he also can be, like I said, an issue, it can be trouble for you in the open field. But one of the things that I think for Texas that could be an advantage for them, even going up against a dynamic threat like Taylor Green at quarterback, is he's turnover prone. He is careless with the football at times. He's got 7 interceptions on the season, and he's got 11 fumbles on the season. They got 22 fumbles as a team. Now, he hadn't lost all those fumbles, but they got 22 fumbles as a team. They're the second most fumbles in all of college football this season. Only Oklahoma has more with 23. So turnovers are going to be big, especially when you're defending this guy at all the different ways that he can try to beat you. So here is Sark talking about how opportunistic the defense has been this season and what's led to this resurgence of turnovers and takeaways by the Texas defense.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. I think one, you have to have scheme, right? You have to put players in position to make plays. 2, you have to have ability to make the play. But I think turnovers happen because of football IQ and awareness. And I really believe that. Like, you can be big, tall, and fast, but if you don't know what's happening around you, you probably don't recognize when there's an opportunity to punch a ball out to cause a fumble, or when to get your hands up when you're rushing the passer to tip a pass, or, because I'm so confident in my coverage, I don't have to be so locked in on the receiver. I can see a ball be thrown, and then if it is tipped, I can break on that ball and go make the play. So again, I think there's scheme, I think there's ability, but I also think there's football IQ and football awareness that our guys, especially in the back end, have a ton of. And I think that's because, one, there's a lot of experience back there. But two, I think there's a real sense of confidence and trust in one another to go make their plays.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely have noticed the increased situational awareness. Is kind of the best way to describe it for the defense. They play the situational football right now for Texas. They are really dialed in. Whether it be third and fourth down, money downs, where you're talking about, I guess in the red zone, maybe they can improve a little bit, but sudden change, different situations, they seem to be really dialed in, particularly to those. Let's talk about a player, particularly who has to have a big game versus Arkansas. He's been playing at a really high level. Anthony Hill is a semi-finalist for the Butkus Award, so he has been playing some of his best football. But he's going to have to play even better football versus Arkansas. In terms of the power running game, the downhill running game they have with Braylon Russell and with Jaquindon Jackson. And he's the guy that's going to move on the edge sometimes and play in the middle and play on the edge because they want to use his versatility. Well, this is a team that loves to test the edges with the quarterback design runs and the quarterback run game and get on the edges with the outside zone. They also do a really good job with crossing routes and bootlegs, occupying the eyes of the linebackers. So Anthony Hill is going to be tested versus this offense, no question about it. Here's Sark talking about his contribution so far this year and how Anthony Hill has risen to the challenge.
Yeah, I love Ant. You know, he's a guy who last season was just trying to play football. You know, I mean, he was just, if he could run and hit something, it worked, you know, and he was learning his way as he was going, you know, and he had Jalen Ford there kind of navigating things. And we really put a lot on Ant this year coming back. What I've been impressed with him is obviously the playmaking ability. We see it, you know, he's got sacks, he forces turnovers. He had a great punch out causing the fumble last week. You know, he's disruptive. He's very versatile. He can play on the line of scrimmage. He can play off the ball. But who he is as a person and the work that he puts in and the way he represents our football program is as impressive to me as it is the way that he plays the game. And I always say there's a real correlation to that, right? Who you are some of the time is who you are all the time. If you want to be a really good football player, you got to be a really good person off the field. And those two things tie together. And there's a level of consistency that he's playing with right now, you know, down in, down out, game in, game out. I know number 0 is going to be there Saturday at 11 a.m. I don't have to worry about that. When we take the field, that dude's going to be ready to play.
Yeah, he's got to have a big game, linebacker. I mean, every level of the defense will be tested. That's the challenge I like for this Texas defense versus Arkansas. The interior D line is going to be tested because they got a 250-pound freshman running back, Braylon Russell, who is probable for the game. Jaquindon Jackson's a powerful runner. These guys are averaging, you know, over 5.5 and over 6 yards per rush. And they can run the inside zone and the power schemes inside. Your defensive ends, your edges have to be disciplined and cannot crash down on that inside run game, because if they do, the quarterback, Taylor Green, is going to make them pay with zone read and attacking the edges. And like I told you before, they love the D gap on both sides, so right and the left. You look at their most explosive runs, their longest runs of the season, the most 10-plus yard runs of the season, the most forced missed tackles, the most run first downs in the running game. They all come in the D gaps on both sides, so right and the left, more so than any gap, A, B, or C. Nope, it's the D gaps. They want to get to the edges. A lot of that is the quarterback design run games. So your edges, they're challenged to be disciplined and keep contained. And then on top of that, the secondary will have their challenge because Andrew Armstrong is a monster. At least the SEC, if you go look at it, in 10-plus yard receptions, and he's top 10 nationally in that category. And 20-plus yard receptions, he's top 10 nationally in that category as well. This is the best receiver Texas has faced as well, but Texas is the best pass defense in the country. So Sark was asked about Andrew Armstrong and the secondary. Do they allocate resources? Do you modify the defense at all when you have to deal with a receiver of this ilk? Here's what Sark had to say.
Yeah, no, I think that we have to trust our players. We have to trust our coverage. We have to continually disguise our coverages. You know, and I think PK does a great job of that. And I think our veteran secondary does a really good job of that. Those guys work really well in unison with one another. And so, his length can be a problem on one-on-one balls and 50-50 balls. But again, the scheme is a problem too. So you have to defend the scheme and you have to defend all 11 players that you're defending, but knowing where are the targets, right? And where are the targets going? And he gets plenty of targets. He has plenty of catches and yards. And so we kind of have to do both. But again, we want to remain competitive and we want to remain confident in our own ability to go do that. I think we have pretty good players too. And to marry that with the scheme, I think that's why we've been playing such good pass defense all year.
All right, so I don't expect them to change anything, and they got two really good corners. I expect Arkansas actually to change something. They don't put Andrew Armstrong in the slot very often. He's only got 7 slot reps, is the most he's had in any game. I expect him to be in double-digit slot reps versus Texas. Texas should counter by putting Jahdae Barron in the slot if necessary. But right now, they're going to go with their kind of dance with what brung you, like Derek K. Royal said, because they got the best pass defense in the country, and I think the best cornerback duo in the country in terms of pass defense, and also what may be a Thorpe Award finalist in Jahdae Barron. All right, last cut here I want to get to is start talking about the distribution of the ball. I predicted Texas would have a different leading receiver in half of their games this year. Well, you're already there because you've had a different leading receiver in 6 of the games already so far this season. But Sark said that was by design, and this was something that he envisioned for the offense before the season started. Here's Sark talking about the ball distribution via the passing game.
No, I don't think so. I think that's fair. That was something we had talked about on here at the beginning of the season, that we wanted to play more wide receivers. We wanted to have a better rotation. We wanted to have more depth. And we wanted to utilize these guys because they'd earned the opportunities. And the fact that the numbers are starting to bear that out, I think is a good thing. We've got a lot of trust in these guys and their ability to go make plays, whether it's our wide receiving core, obviously what Gunner's been doing at tight end and what our running backs are doing, catching the ball out of the backfield. I think the distribution of the ball is healthy, especially when the ball's getting distributed and those guys are going and making plays with the ball in their hands. And so, so far so good. The plan going into the season is working.
There you go. So by design, for him to expand the circle of trust, which is something I said, it will be the largest circle of trust for his receivers since he's been coordinating or been a head coach. And that definitely is the case right now. All right, we come back. We'll dive into a little off of the record conversation, talk about some wacky stories from the sports world and beyond right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the Horn. All right, couple of items that I wanted to get to here in off the record. First off, do we have that Dion sound ready to go? Can we have that ready? Because I want to play that at one point because Dion went on he went on one of the shows. I believe it was on FS1. He went on one of their shows and he was asked about Shadur Sanders and asked about Travis Hunter. So we'll get to that. And I did have clarification because I saw a report about Mike Tyson's, the incident where he slaps Jake Paul at the weigh-in yesterday. And the theory that apparently Mike Tyson did it because he stepped on his feet that's the most accurate, apparently. According to the New York Post, Mike Tyson has explained why he slapped Jake Paul at their weigh-in. He said, quote, I was in my socks and he had on shoes and he stepped on my toe because he's an effing a-hole. I was in a lot of pain. I had to reciprocate. So apparently stepped on. He did have shoes on. I see he had Air Force Ones on and Mike just had socks on.
Come on
Mike
now.
is sensitive about his
Jake.
feet, as we know.
Trying to cheat. So we should throw this out. If Jake Paul wins, right, it's thrown out because the toe incident. Yeah, okay.
He tried to give some turf toe, tried to step on his big toe and mess it up. He knew Mike had some toe issues, some feet issues, something like that. So there you go. So apparently that is why Mike decided to slap him. And they're claiming that it was not staged, of course. But as Patrick mentioned, we don't know. Maybe Jake Paul just gave him parameters. And like Patrick said, it's like, hey, if you want to go off, you can go off. Let's promote the damn fight. But I do think I think the numbers will be crazy for the fight on Netflix tonight. Also, this is a story that I saw, but I didn't know if it was going to blow up because I saw Barstool tweeted it out in the Houston game versus Detroit. The linebacker James Houston for Detroit, there was a video that surfaced and Barstool put it out there of him having a stain on the back of his white pants.
Ooh.
Yes. Right where if there was an accident that would have happened.
Yes.
And it was greenish, which was weird. And he claims, because it blew up and Barstool was making fun of it, he claimed he sat in some green Gatorade. And that's why he had the green stuff on the back of his pants in that spot. And there are a lot of players now that are, they're essentially, they don't believe him. They're calling BS on him, saying he sat in some green Gatorade, and that's why he had the stain on the back of his pants. I don't know. I will say, because Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce talked about this on their New Heights podcast. I would play the audio, but they drop a couple of bombs in there, and it's not worth it. But I've told you guys on the show several times that it does happen.
Yeah.
Like it does happen. Now, it shouldn't. In a game, you should be able to go change and, whatever. That shit happens, but it has happened in the games where I've been in a game where it's happened to players. But both times, I believe one player faked an injury when it happened. And then the other player that it happened to, he also was like injured during the whatever when it happened. So usually guys get off the field, you don't play with it. So I think the only thing that the reason I would believe him is because you don't play through it. You usually, it's like, nah, man, I need to go handle this. And everybody understands, like, I got to take care of it. I'll be right back. But maybe he decided, hey, I'm going to wait. I don't know if it was in the first half or the second half. I got to go check. That's the thing.
Do you think that maybe he didn't know how bad it was?
That could be it, too.
Yeah, he thought maybe, but I'm already sweaty. So I don't know if I think maybe that was just a fart.
Then it's a shart.
And it was turned into a
I
messy situation.
Could be. It could. I don't know. I'm gonna say that does. I've said on the show several times that does happen in games, and it's one of those things in football we don't like to talk about, but it does happen to guys, unfortunately. And there's a theories that it happened to James Houston, but we shall see. That's that's definitely way off the record. All right, let's go play this Dion sound because Dion went on FS1. And we'll cut it off when we need to. I just want to hear the first 45 seconds of it because he is straight up saying that he is going to interfere with the NFL draft. He's not saying how he's going to do it. He's not going to be overt, but he's saying that his two players, his son, Shadur Sanders, who's going to be the first quarterback taken, and Travis Hunter, who's likely also going to be top 10 pick easy. Yeah. Dion is saying that he's going to pull a Manning family type operation here where he is going to make sure that they go to the right team for the right fit for them. Here is Dion on FS1.
You know, Prime, he's probably going to be one or two top quarterback off the board if they know anything, right? And that organization may be 1, 2, 3, 4. Will you step in Eli Manning like, Deion Sanders like, to the point where, like, you told him, hey, man, I ain't taking that psych test with the Giants. I followed you after that. I said I wasn't taking it either. Will you step in and do some of that if it's the wrong organization and say he ain't going there?
Yeah, but I'm not going to do it publicly. I'll do it privately.
Yeah. Okay.
So you said you're going to be dad. You're going to be dad. You're going to be dad.
I'm dad. The cows come home. Yes, sir. And with Travis as well.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting that's your other son.
That's your other son.
Yeah. But give us a little bit more insight on where you would like to. You don't even have to name teams.
I think now he's asking her to name like teams and regions, and Deion's not going for that. Deion's way too savvy for that. But Deion's basically telling you, oh, no, I will interfere. I'm not going to do it disrespectfully, and I won't do it via the media by saying he's not going to go to that team. He won't do this. But he's basically saying behind the scenes, I'm going to tell that team, you should not draft him because he's not going there. And by the way, Deion pulled that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Deion pulled that a little bit. I think the Mannings have done it, and Deion I think John Elway did it to a certain extent too. There are a few players who have that kind of clout coming out. They're like, no, don't draft me. I'm not going there. People thought Caleb Williams would do that. Remember, they thought Caleb Williams would pull that with the Bears. He didn't. Maybe he should have. Because a lot of this it's who you end up with. A lot of it is being with the right team to start your career, and you get with the wrong team, and your career could go off the rails quickly.
No, if there's not stability at all in the franchise where there's new GMs and new coaches every year, and they'll fire a coordinator 6 weeks into a season and all of that, that's where you really don't want your kid going necessarily, especially if they have a choice at all. And especially Travis Hunter does. Shedeur is a little different now because he still could be the top quarterback, but if you start pulling that, he's not that head and shoulders above anybody else that you may get into. Well, we'll take somebody else then. Like if this is going to be the headache from day one.
Yeah, you're not John Elway.
Like there's no quarterback in this that you feel, man, this guy's going to kill in the NFL. Now, statistically, probably one of them will, but you don't know which one it is.
I'm with you on that. That's a good point. That's why it was Caleb Williams could done it because he was far and away considered the top prospect. John Elway, the Mannings, when they come out, they consider the top prospects. No, I'm with you on that. And I always wonder what teams. So if that's indeed the case, that Deion's like, no, I'm going to interfere. What teams will he disallow his players to play for?
Carolina.
Yeah. Is because Jacksonville's going to be at the top 2. Is Jacksonville off the list?
Probably.
The Giants are a functional organization. They're good. So he let him go to the Giants. Cleveland's not. Is Cleveland going to draft the quarterback? Hell, either one of them. You wouldn't let him go to Cleveland, would you?
No.
Disallow for Travis or Shedeur. Tennessee, he may not even like the market for Tennessee. He may just be like, nah, I don't like that market. I want you to go to a bigger market team, at least for one of the guys.
Yeah, and Tennessee, I mean, I think there's some part of it where it's like, okay,
the
this
Vegas Raiders, they're going to the Raiders.
Well, because Tom
even
Brady's
they're dysfunctional. They're dysfunctional.
No, but
still,
Deion's good with Tom.
Exactly. Yeah, they got a lot. There's a lot of appeal to the Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, no, but remember Tom Brady and Shedeur Sanders like worked out together a lot, and there was a whole thing about him working with Tom Brady. So that now that Tom Brady is there, it adds an extra appeal of no, I'd rather Shedeur go there, and then he can work with Tom Brady because they're all part of the organization.
So most of these teams are going to draft high because I agree with you. That's a great point about the Tom Brady thing. They are disastrous, like 5-star Fuster Clucks of franchises.
Yes, Saints are an interesting one where you put the Saints in that.
Saints could
that
be
they're a historically franchise that people didn't want to go to for a very long time until Sean Payton.
And they got a salary cap issue there. Like they're in salary cap hell apparently in New Orleans.
That's because you just look at those. Like the Chargers were always that for a long time of a franchise that basically
cheap owners.
Yeah, they don't want the ownership. Like Cincinnati would probably fall into that category to a certain extent of ownership where they're like. And David Tepper's not cheap in Carolina, but he's just a bad owner.
It's dysfunctional. Yeah. It's just dysfunctional. I'm with you. Yeah, because I wouldn't want to. Here's the top 10. They got Miami. Miami's good. You got Dallas at number 11 right now in the draft order. You know he'd let them go to Dallas. You got New Orleans. Yeah, New Orleans, nothing dysfunctional, but they're in salary cap.
No, they were dysfunctional up until Sean Payton.
Yeah, so they might just be one of those franchises like, no, that was just Sean Payton's era. They're always dysfunctional. So I'm with you. They could be one of those teams that is on the the kind of the disallow list, if you will.
I mean, look what they gave him for Ricky Williams. Love Ricky Williams, but that was not. They brought in Mike Ditka and then trade away everything for Ricky Williams. It was not the best move.
Not the best move. So you got the Saints, the Jets. These are all teams in the top 10 that we think are dumpster fires that Dion will disallow his guys to go to. Saints, Jets, Jets because they are a dumpster fire. Carolina, that's dysfunctional. Patriots. No.
Robert Kraft. You're okay with Robert Kraft.
Okay. Las Vegas Raiders, they're going to let them go there just because of Tom Brady thing. I agree with you. And that's too much appeal there. Tennessee, nothing dysfunctional about Tennessee, but it ain't sexy.
No, their ownership is weird too.
Oh, that's true. Good point. So I'll put them on the list. And then the Giants. There's a functional organization, so they probably would love to go there, big market. And then Jacksonville is probably on that list too. So like half the teams in the top 10 are probably going to be considered dysfunctional fuster cluck franchises.
Yeah.
And Dion might go, nah, don't draft him. Don't draft my guy.
No, I don't know if Jacksonville would even want either one of those guys, though, because they just paid Trevor Lawrence and they just drafted Brian Thomas.
Yeah, but you always need a guy like Travis Hunter.
I know you do, but I'm just saying of guy that of what they need at that team.
No, you won't draft him number 1 overall anyway.
Yeah, you're not taking either one of those guys number 1 overall just because you have other needs right now.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. All right, there you go. So we'll come back from the break here, and then we'll dive back into the NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Big games coming up this weekend. Ravens and the Steelers. We'll talk about the Chiefs and the Bills. Cowboys made a declaration, probably a few games late, but hey, better late than never. We'll discuss that. We'll get into Rod's rant and discuss the big fight coming up tonight on Netflix. Who you taking, Jake Paul or Mike Tyson? All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Freak Flag Feel Good, Fake It Till You Make It, Ric Flair, woo, 512 Football Friday edition of the Rodcast. And that's when the 512 is when my co-host, Patrick Davis, who does all the musically themed days of the week, that's when he plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who you jamming right now, Patrick?
This is Billy King and the Bad, 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 and they are playing Saturday at Central Machine Works.
There you go. I appreciate Patrick and all of his effort and energy hooking us up with the topic for the Big Fat Poll today as well. Patrick, what is the topic for the Big Fat Poll today?
Big Fat Poll of the day today. How many points is Texas going to score against Arkansas? That is your question for today. I gave you 4 options. Right now, 25 to 34 is leading the way with 56% of the vote, 35% of the vote for 35 plus, 9% for 15 to 24. And that Arkansas fan finally got on and voted for 0 to 14.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like bad because I do think it's an arrogant, cocky take for a Texas team going on the road to Arkansas. That's a rivalry game, and it's the SEC, and they're coming off a bye week, by the way. And for me to just casually say, yeah, they're gonna score at least 35 points, but that is how I feel. I do feel like they're gonna score at least 35 points. And if you go look at the last 2 home games for Arkansas, they've been blown out in the last 2 home games, one by Ole Miss and one by Ole Miss, both ranked teams. And they allowed, I believe, in the last 3 games, they've allowed over 1,000 yards passing in the last 3 games. And Texas coming in, off of one of Quinn's best passing games of the season, one of the best of his career. So to me, and that's Texas' strength right now is their passing game. So I think Texas will, if they don't score in the 30s, something happened. Self-inflicted wounds, slow start, something happened in that game if they can't get to 30s, because I think 30 for them, they actually may get more than 30-something points in this game potentially against Arkansas. It could end up being like Ole Miss. I'm not going to go that far and say they're going to boat race them and blow them out like Ole Miss did and score and throw for 500 yards. But this is the worst pass defense Texas faced since UTSA. And Texas threw for, and that was the game Quinn and all 3 quarterbacks played, as a matter of fact. Quinn, Arch, and Trey Owens played. And I want to say they ended up throwing for over 400 yards, combined. All 3 of them played. So I don't see how the Arkansas defense is going to, just with one bye week, they're going to grow wings and become a good pass defense. I just don't see it happening. I think Texas is going to come in and use a lot of the same concepts that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss use, because I think Sark can siphon a lot of those ideas and translate them to the Texas offense, especially the vertical shots where they were 5 or 6 on 25-plus yard passes for 280 yards passing and 3 touchdowns against Arkansas. Quinn coming off his best deep ball passing performance in a while. He should have been 4 or 5. He was 2 of 5. But remember, DeAndre Moore had a little off game, so he bobbled one and dropped one. And that could have been the best deep ball performance that we've seen from Quinn Ewers as a passer on the 40 acres. So if he's in the zone and Quinn's now starting to look like the best version of himself, Texas, they're going to put an Old Testament style butt whipping on Arkansas. But it is a rival, so can't say that until Texas goes down there and takes care of business. All right, we'll talk about more about the Texas-Arkansas matchup, of course, but we'll get into some NFL news notes and nuggets here with that Ravens-Steelers game, because we haven't talked enough about that one. We'll come back to the Chiefs and the Bills as well. That's another big game coming up this weekend. Cowboys finally made a declaration about who the starting running back is going to be, or at least who's going to lead the committee of running backs for them. We'll dive into that too. But first, let's get educated, updated, and informed with all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, the Mavericks fell to the Jazz 115 to 113 last night after Dallas let John Collins get a go-ahead dunk with 6 seconds left, and Najee Marshall missed the game-winning 3. Luka Doncic had 37 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists in a game Kyrie Irving missed due to a shoulder injury. Tonight, NBA Cup play resumes with the Spurs playing the Lakers and the Rockets taking on the Clippers. And Saturday, the Spurs and Mavericks face off in Dallas. In college basketball, Texas men take on Mississippi Valley State on Saturday after they were just beaten by Missouri by 72 points. And the Texas women play DePaul on Sunday evening. In college football, the Longhorns played old rivals Arkansas on the road this weekend with an 11 a.m. kick. And elsewhere, number 22 LSU has a matchup with Florida. Number 21 South Carolina takes on number 23 Missouri. And number 7 Tennessee faces number 12 Georgia in a game with major playoff implications. And in the NFL, the Eagles pulled out a 26-18 win over the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Saquon Barkley led the way with 192 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in a game where both quarterbacks struggled to get going. Sunday, the Ravens and Steelers face off in a big AFC North showdown, and the Bills welcome the Chiefs to Buffalo, trying to be the first team to beat Kansas City this season. On Monday, the Texans and Cowboys go head-to-head on Monday Night Football, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for those Horn headlines. I appreciate those. Here's some headlines for you. Cowboys came out and made a declaration yesterday. I got it from Clarence Chill. He put out a tweet about it and pointed out that the Cowboys have announced that Rico Dowdle going forward will be the starting running back or the lead back in the backfield. It says there's no more running back by committee in Dallas. Mike McCarthy said Rico Dowdle is the Cowboys lead back. Definitely you have to get him the ball. That's my focus, to continue to get him the opportunities. He's the lead back. He should be. Pointed out that he's your highest graded offensive player by Pro Football Focus. He's averaging in the last 2 weeks over 5 yards per carry. That's third best in the NFL, actually. And he's got a top 10 rushing success rate, actually the highest of his career. He's at 55.4% success rate. He's got career highs in first down runs, and throughout the season, he's averaging 4.5 yards per attempt. I even said yesterday or earlier this week, I believe, I said, man, I wonder when the Cowboys are going to try to just sign Rico Dowdle to an extension while he's really cheap. And so he can be your backup running back. I don't expect him to be the lead back or anything, but he can definitely be one of your more than serviceable and capable of being your backup running back. He's 26 years old. He's got an 8.5% explosive play rate, explosive rush rate, I should say, at the running back position. He really is. The last 2 weeks, even that Atlanta game, I remember he was averaging over 6 yards per carry versus Atlanta. In that week 9 alone, among all running backs, he was second in yards per carry. He was tied for second in rushes of 10-plus yards. He had 3 of them, and his success rate was top 5 among running backs in week 9. That was the week that they played against Atlanta, 58% success rate. He really had, I mean, even after a game, I think game 2 or 3 for the Cowboys, I came on these airways and said, hey, he's the starting running back. I don't even know what we're debating and why we're still rotating and why there's still a committee. You can still have a committee to help shoulder some of the burden of the running game, but he gives you the best chance to be successful in the running game. There's no doubt. And you've seen that in the last 2 weeks when he's had 24 carries in the last 2 games for 128 yards. You've been able to see that performance he had against the Steelers in week 5 where he had 87 rushing yards. He was one of the bright spots there. There's no doubt Rico Dowdle's the guy. So it's about 4 weeks too late, but it's all right. Better late than never. Cowboys, I think, made a wise decision going forward. Whoever's going to be the starting quarterback, whether it's Cooper Rush or Trey Lance, I think Cooper Rush is still going to be the starting quarterback. There's been no announcement that Trey Lance is going to end up being the guy.
Yeah, but I think Mike McCarthy said that Cooper is still the guy this week, which I think makes sense in the fact that this game is one that if they have any shot to win it at all, they want to win this one, and then they'd be fine tanking after this. But
yeah, I guess so.
In that interstate battle, they like to be, and they feel Cooper probably gives them a better shot to.
Oh, he definitely does.
To just win right now, which I mean, if we saw he play last week, he doesn't. That Trey Lance does. If you say, well, Trey Lance at least is an X factor and an unknown, and maybe he might play well. Like we know what the ceiling is for Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
So if your team is going to be as bad as they were last week, then put in Trey Lance because you don't stand a chance really with either. But maybe Trey Lance runs for 900 yards in that game, and and you figure something out. But I understand the logic of if you look at Cooper Rush's resume of what he has done with players being out, with Dak being out, then I get why they want him in this game.
Yeah. No, you're right about that because Jerry Jones doesn't want to have to cry again. He loses to the Texans. That's personal. You're right. In-state, that's losing to the
He's
Texans.
still pissed off that team got allowed.
Yeah, and they lost in their inaugural matchup.
Yeah, but that was because he never wanted another team in Texas. He wanted to own the entire state of Texas.
Yeah, well,
so he was like, once the Oilers left, he was like, "Don't ever put another team in Texas, so I don't lose any of my fan base." And everyone in Houston was like, Jerry, we're not rooting for you anyway. No one in Houston was rooting for you, Jerry. No one in Houston was rooting for the Cowboys. We're just sad
we're still
that
love you, Blue Town. I guess he thought when the Oilers left, he was going to take over Houston.
Yeah, he never did though. But he's never. So he's always wanted to have the dominance, at least in state. So I think this game does matter to them enough that if they were going to do any sort of tanking or anything of that nature, it would be after this week.
Yeah.
You're also on Monday Night Football. You don't want to come out on Monday Night Football and tank.
No, you're right. Jerry's too prideful for that.
Yeah.
So even if it may be the right call to let Trey Lance get as much work as possible and see where you stand, maybe you can use him as a trade asset or something like that. Yeah, Cowboys, they got other priorities. And one of them is don't look bad on national TV in primetime games.
No, and I mean, and we saw both of them played last week too. So Trey Lance may get in. He may play some.
Yeah, he may play some. I would just start him and see how he works as the starter. But I think you made a good point though about the Texans. And by the way, Micah Parsons is expected to play, so that's good news for the Cowboys as well. So we got time to talk about that because that ain't till Monday. So we'll get into breaking down that matchup. I promise you, on Monday we will hit that matchup from every different angle. Let's talk about the big matchups happening this weekend in the NFL. So next segment, we'll go into Rod's rant and we'll talk about the fight tonight between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. And we'll play for some audio from Mike Tyson that is just it's legendary. And I think it might be some of the greatest audio we've ever heard from Mike Tyson.
True.
And I think I don't think it's fake. Like I know people, he's promoting the fight. I get that. So he's doing the car wash and he's doing all the interviews. But I think he's authentic. That's what I love about Mike. I think we all love that's real. Like I don't think he's faking that, and that's why even the slap that he slapped Jake Paul in the during the weigh-in, I think that was real. I know some people are like, yeah, that's a fake. I'm like, I think it's real. I don't think there's a lot of fake with Mike. That never has been. Even when the promotions back in the day, guys, Mike was really trying to fight Lennox Lewis. He was going over there to punch him in the face. Like there ain't a lot of fake in Mike. So I don't know if he's faking. Now, will he get beat? He could. I'm gonna take Mike, and I'm gonna bet on Mike and root for Mike. But beating somebody who's 30 years younger than you in anything, as I get up every day as a 43-year-old man, and my shoulder hurts, my back hurts, and like all those football injuries now, dude, they're brutal. They're brutal. Now I can feel them. Every day, and I remember them too. My body won't let me forget them. And I'm thinking about Mike at 58, and all the boxing injuries he must have sustained all throughout the years, and now all of that adding up. Man, it'd be quite an accomplishment for him to beat the hell out of Jake Paul. Well, just to beat him. You ain't got to beat the hell out of him. Just beat him.
Beat the hell of him too would be funny, but
yeah, beat the hell out of him. America would like that. But just to beat him.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. So we'll get into that in Rod's rant. We'll talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the Ravens and the Steelers. I don't know what it is, what the secret sauce that Mike Tomlin has, but he has figured out Lamar Jackson. We talked about that. The Ravens are 1-3 against the Steelers with Lamar Jackson in the lineup. And it's not just that he's 1-3, but he's turned the ball over 10 times in those games, guys. 4 games, 10 turnovers, and seven of those turnovers are interceptions. I'm talking about when he's good. Now, I will say that half of the games he's not even available to play the Steelers because he either is hurt at the end of the season because most of their games, I don't know, they always come at the end of the season. The Steelers, they never put a Steelers Ravens. They don't. The Steelers and Ravens. They don't play at the beginning or toward the middle. It seems like most of the games they're toward the end of the schedule. So Lamar's been hurt for like half the games. So that's why he's only been available to play him 4 times. But over the last 5 seasons, the Ravens are 1-3 against the Steelers with Jackson in the lineup, and he's turned the ball over 10 times, guys, and 7 of those have been interceptions. So maybe this is the game where he flips it. And I think the thing that's different, the dynamic that's different, is that you have now a leading rusher. Like they have now someone that they can lean on in the running game. That's not Lamar. Lamar usually was the running game and the passing game. I mean, he's led them in rushing and passing, I think, every year since 2019. But this year's different because Derrick Henry is the heartbeat and he's the soul of the running game, not necessarily Lamar Jackson. And I think it has led to them being a better overall, more balanced offense. And you can make the argument best offense in the NFL in that regard. So maybe that's the thing that could be different. But it's really weird to look at recent history and pick against the Steelers in this matchup because Mike Tomlin has owned Lamar Jackson. I know he calls him Mr. Jackson. He don't treat him like Mr. Jackson. He treats him like Mrs. Jackson. You know what I'm talking about? Like he owns Lamar Jackson. I want to pick the Ravens in this matchup really bad, but history suggests that the Steelers, and the Steelers are playing, by the way, their best football offensively that we've seen them play since Big Ben was there. Defensively, Steelers have always had good defense, and Mike Tomlin, that's his calling card. But now the thing that's kind of freaky is that they actually are scoring some points offensively. I got this stat. I just got it actually off of ESPN. If you go look at the offense for the Steelers now with Russell Wilson at 3-0, of course, since he made the quarterback change, the Steelers hit top 10 in points per game with Russell Wilson as starting quarterback. He's not even completing 60% of his passes, guys. He's not. He's not even completing. I promise. He's not even completing. He's like 58% completion percentage on the season, which usually is like, oh, that means he's an inefficient quarterback. But it's something about the way the Steelers operate with him managing the game. Their total yards per game, they're 6th in total yards per game, and they're 5th in points per game with Russell Wilson in that time span. Russell Wilson's starting quarterback since week 7. What? And he's not even completing 58% of his passes. But his deep ball, though, he is chunking it deep. And so even though he's not completing, over 60% down by down, when they got to have it on some of those deep passes down the field, they are actually converting probably an abnormally high amount of those. I don't know how long that's going to last, but Russell Wilson has always been great at the deep ball, always had one of the best deep balls in the NFL, and now he's got receivers, though, to throw to, because Pickens has been great for him, and really, ultimately, you go look at it, he's averaging 9.9 air yards per attempt. That's 2nd in the NFL in that time span. So the reason his completion percentage is dropping is because a lot of his passes are just deeper downfield than they have been in recent years. He's 30th in completion percentage, but averaging 8.7 yards per pass attempt. That's 6th. His touchdown rate is 5th, 7.1% touchdown rate, and 9.9 air yards per attempt, which is 2nd in the NFL. So he's attempted 18% of his passes 20 yards or more down the field. That's 4th in that time span. So it's a vertical passing game. And he also, so basically they stay away from the intermediate area with him. They either throwing short or they're throwing it deep with Russell Wilson. And honestly, against this Ravens defense, they probably need to let him throw it a lot more. The Ravens have faced a league high 40 pass attempts per game, 39.7. Why? Because it's the path of least resistance. They're allowing 7.9 yards per attempt. That's 29th. The touchdown rate allowed, 5.3, is 24th. They're 27th in overall passing points allowed, and they're last in pass defense in the NFL. So I know the Steelers don't really like to just go out there and, be a pass first team. Against the Ravens, everybody's a pass first team. That's why against the Ravens, their games are averaging a league high 57 combined points per game. Because it's a shootout. And they're fine with being in the shootout. They're like, we got the offense for it. We got the quarterback for it. They don't have the receivers for a shootout, but they got the offense for a shootout because They got good tight ends that can threaten you down the field. They can beat, safeties and linebackers. They got a running game that is as formidable as any in the NFL, a quarterback that is a dual threat quarterback that can be a catalyst and, improvise and that second reaction plays and operate off schedule. They really do need like another upgraded wide receiver, which is why they keep trading and drafting for wide receivers. But whenever they get that, this offense is going to be damn near unstoppable. The only thing that's stopping now is they don't have wide receivers that can consistently beat man coverage. They got wide receivers that are good, but they don't have elite wide receivers that can beat man coverage. If they ever get like a true number one, like who's their top? Zay Flowers is their number one guy. If they ever get a true number one guy, that's scary. Like if they got an Amari Cooper or they had gotten a DeAndre Hopkins, holy Chicago, like that's a problem. But they don't really have that. They got serviceable guys, but they don't really have that. And I think ultimately that's where the Steelers could have an advantage too. Because Steelers defense, they can stop the run, and if they don't have to worry about their corners being isolated on an island and they can contain Lamar Jackson, makes the Steelers defense makes their job a whole lot easier defensively. So yeah, the Ravens, it's crazy how bad they've allowed the most plays of 15 or more yards in the NFL and the most plays of 20 or more yards in the NFL. And they're 22nd in plays of 30 or more yards allowed. I don't even recognize that Ravens defense. When's the last time we've seen a Ravens defense this bad at versus the pass or this bad in defending explosive plays? I don't remember seeing a defense this bad for the Ravens. And that's what makes me reluctant to pick them for a Super Bowl contender or to challenge the Chiefs. When's the last time you've seen a team win the Super Bowl that'd be dead last in a category like pass defense, in a category that important? Usually doesn't happen.
No, and not against when you have to go through Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. You had to go against the best quarterback of our time other than Tom Brady. And yet your pass defense is last in the league.
And now he's got DeAndre Hopkins. He's still got an Xavier Worthy who's hitting a little bit of that rookie wall, but we'll see if he gets through it and gets to the playoffs. Hollywood Brown could still come back this season and be an impact in that passing game.
Yep. Yeah, you're right about that. So I don't know, man. This is a tough game to pick. I want to pick the Ravens because it feels like the Ravens are a better team than the Steelers, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe the Steelers are a better team and the Ravens are just they got better players. Doesn't it feel like that? The Steelers actually may be a better team potentially with all because their defense, in terms of all the phases, defense, offense, special teams, because the Ravens are so bad defensively. I can't say they're a good, they're a better team overall, but they're more dynamic and they're more explosive and they have better players. They got the two-time MVP. They got Derrick Henry, who's one of the best running backs of our generation. They just had Kyle Hamilton is one of the best safeties out there. They have better players. Tight end, Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends, but I don't know if they are a better team. So that's what's tested for them versus the Steelers. Because Steelers, they beat you with team football. They beat you with hidden yardage, all three phases. That's how Mike Tomlin does it. The Ravens are just winning right now because their offense is so high-powered and so prolific that you can't stop it for 4 quarters. Nobody can. That's how they're winning right now.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going wood, but they do have 2 extremely injury-prone guys. At an older running back, and then the guy's got so you're playing with fire a little bit, running through the gauntlet that you're gonna have to go through till the end of the season, and especially now that there's the Thursday games, the Wednesday game on Christmas, like there's just when it starts throwing off your weeks and everything else, it's gonna be interesting to see how teams hold up through those patches.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you on that. Lamar Jackson's only win against Pittsburgh was a 3-interception, 5-sack performance that didn't gain a first down and he didn't gain a first down on the game-winning drive in overtime. And so they won, but it wasn't because of Lamar Jackson. I think the key here, or at least the magic number, is going to be 28. Because the Steelers' record in road games where the opponent scores 27 or more points, Mike Tomlin 2-35. 2-35. Road games where opponents scored 27 plus points. That's not the Steelers don't operate that. They don't. If you this is a shootout team in the Ravens, and the Steelers are not a shootout team. They don't like shootouts. So if it becomes a shootout, favors the Ravens. If it's a slugfest, favors the Steelers. So keep that in mind when you're watching the game. All right, we will get into, or I'll give you another nugget about the Chiefs and their matchup coming up versus the Bills. But let's go to the break. We'll get to the break. We'll give you that. I'll give you a little nugget about the Chiefs and the Bills matchup. But then we'll hit the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. We'll hear from Mike Tyson as well, which may be one of the greatest promo interviews in the history of boxing. We'll talk about that and hear from Mike Tyson. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to the rant of the day. And I want to talk about the fight coming up tonight. The Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight happening tonight on Netflix. I'm not sure what the numbers are going to be, but they're going to be huge, whether you like it or not. Mike Tyson is still a draw. He is. I remember the exhibition fight he had with Roy Jones. And everybody thought, oh man, it's silly. Two old guys fight. Nobody cares. But Roy Jones has got brand recognition, and so does Mike Tyson. You know who these guys are. And turns out they end up getting $1.6 million in 1.6 million pay-per-view buys for that fight. And it's just because, you had Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, still two names, even though they're old, aging, two names that boxing and sports fans recognize. That fight ended up being, guys, 10th all time. If you look at pay-per-view buys all time for hand-to-hand combat or combat sporting events, it ended up being in the top 10. And that's when I think people started to realize, like, you know what, man, even though they're old and aging, people might still want to watch Mike Tyson in a exhibition bout. And then ultimately, that's why we end up here with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson will be facing off tonight in Jerry World. So they've been promoting the fight, and Mike Tyson's been making the rounds, doing interviews, getting ready for the fight. And I got to tell you, he is killing it. Like, he is getting me excited about the damn fight. Every time I hear Mike talk about what he's going to do in the fight, is he going to do it? I don't know, because Father Time is undefeated. But he recently did an interview with a young kid. She's probably in the range from 10 to 12, right? She's 10 to 12. She's a preteen. Right. And she's excited because her mom and dad probably told you Mike Tyson, go on your resume. And when you go to an Ivy League school or whatever, you get accepted into college, you're probably going to send this and there. But like, oh, it's really cool. She interviewed Mike Tyson. What a great interview. Oh, she went viral. So she went viral, but it wasn't because of her skills as an interviewer. She went viral because Mike Tyson went dark on this young lady. And he did it in a very, very strange, weird way. Here it is.
Well, in your return to the ring for this fight, you are setting a monumental opportunity for kids my age to see the legend Mike Tyson in the ring for the first time. So after such a successful career, what type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. Legacy doesn't mean nothing. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Someone said that word and everyone grabbed on the word, so now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before, someone say that as an answer.
Can you really imagine somebody say, I want my legacy to be this way when you're dead? Why do you want somebody? Do you think somebody really wants to think about you? What's the audacity? I think I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the cares about me when I'm gone? Well, my kids, maybe, or grandkids. Who cares?
And again, thank you so much for sharing that.
Wow. Oh man, that was traumatic, but also I think for that young lady a great learning experience. And she was very professional.
Yeah,
I'll get her. She does have a future in media. That was amazing.
It's going to be a fun story in therapy many years down the road.
Oh wow. Man, yeah. She had a viral moment. She's now, like I said, now the world knows who she is. Okay, so Mike also, this is earlier this week.
I do really just want to now when I have friends who are going through a tough patch and they're like, what's the point even? You just go, true.
Yeah, true. She's like, true. She's like, thanks for the wisdom.
We just need very upbeat true to when I die, no one will care what I've done in my life. And the response is true. It's the best to me.
That was so good. That was such a great moment. Okay, so Mike's had a couple of these because he also has been doing like interviews leading up. So this is early this week when he was asked about the fight and his own family, so his kids. So here's what he had to say about the reason this fight matters so much to him and to his family.
Outside of the fans watching and all the eyes on you, I'm sure the most important ones are your family. Your kids are out here. Everyone's coming in to see you on Friday. What does it mean to have family with you?
Well, it's the family's everything. But my kids, to my children, I'm nobody. But that night they're gonna find out their father's very special.
He has such great sound bites. So that's the question right now. Vegas has Jake Paul as a clear favorite, the betting favorite. BetMGM says there's going to be more money bet on this fight than any fight in BetMGM history. So a lot of people will be betting. How many will be betting on Mike Tyson? I'm rooting for Mike Tyson, but Father Time is undefeated. There was a slapping incident where Mike Tyson slapped Jake Paul at the weigh-in. Mike Tyson claims that because Jake Paul was wearing shoes and he was in socks, he said, quote, I was in my socks and he had on shoes. He stepped on my toe because he is an effing a-hole and I was in a lot of pain and I had to reciprocate. His reciprocation was he slapped him in the face. So a lot has happened leading up to this fight that's got me interested in the fight. So I'm rooting for Mike. Am I going to pick Mike? It's hard to pick against Mike,
I'm not putting any money on Mike. Not putting money
I wouldn't
on
put money on him, but man, I wouldn't pick against him. You know, I think Mike in the first 2 rounds, it's possible Mike could get him. If it goes past 2 rounds, how many rounds? They say how many rounds?
8 rounds, right? Is that what it is? 8 rounds?
Okay.
8
if
2-minute rounds?
If it goes past 3 rounds, Mike's done. The Father Time is going to whip him at that point.
No, and I think they did well by cutting it. It's normally like 12 3-minute rounds. I think they cut to 8 2 if I'm correct. But they understood. They're like, at a certain point, this is going to be unwatchable.
Yes.
If you got to round 9 of 3-minute rounds, it's like, this is not, because now they're both going to be gassed. But Jake Paul's still going to be just delivering. And then if they're still going at that point, then it just means Tyson's just taking brain damage.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm trying to think of remember George Foreman knocked out Michael Moore and he was like 20 years older. What round was that in? And it was late, though. That was like a late round knockout. Yeah, it's going to be tough for Mike to knock him out in the early rounds because he's going to be so fresh and his legs, he's going to be moving around. He's not going to be a stationary target. The target gets easier. At least it gets more stationary the later you get into the fight because legs get tired. So Mike's going to come out like a crossfire hurricane in the first 2-3 rounds and try to knock him the F out. And if he doesn't, then I think, you might be dealing with, unfortunately, Jake Paul coming out with another victory over Mike Tyson. Ugh, it's disgusting. Jake Paul should never be able to say he has a win over Mike Tyson, one of the most feared boxers in the history of boxing. But I'm rooting for Mike like a lot of Americans are. This could unite America, Mike Tyson. You could unite the country. We've been very splintered and fractured just past election season here. So you could unite America because I know Republicans and Democrats alike all want to see Jake Paul get knocked the F out. Right. And that would bring a lot of joy to a lot of Americans' hearts and souls. So hopefully that happens tonight. But Father Time is undefeated. So all the old people like me rooting for Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is the underdog.
Yeah, we're all rooting. Yeah, everyone's. Who's not rooting for Mike Tyson? Vegas
and young people.
But Vegas, because he's the underdog, but he's probably got tons of money on him.
Oh yeah.
And so if you look at that, how much money is on Tyson right now, and they will have to pay out massive money back out because he's such an underdog.
Oh yeah. Dave Portnoy tweeted out, I'm going to need somebody to tell me why I shouldn't bet my net worth on Jake Paul. How is he only minus 200? He should be minus 10,000. Mike sucked at the end of his actual career, never mind at 60.
Yeah.
And I said it's hard. The Father Time is undefeated. I know Mike is a bad mofo, but man, 30 years older.
30 years older. And I get the conversation is, well, he wasn't at the end of his regular career. He wasn't necessarily in a good headspace to be where he needed to be or to train and understand what he was doing at that point.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit different than what it is now. But at the same point, it is. And combat sports are very much a young man's game.
Oh my goodness, that's not a young man's game. So we'll see if Mike Tyson can defy the odds tonight. It'll be must-watch television. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven, let you know what's on tap right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. Lifetime Longhorn Rodgers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a 512 Friday edition of the Rodcast. That's when my co-host, the Idillionaire Patrick Davis, plays jams from local bands and artists, very talented human beings that you have a chance to catch live right here in the ATX. Who are we jamming right now, Patrick?
This is a good Rogering, and they're playing Saturday at Come and Take It for Skunk Fest.
I like that. A good Rogering. That's good. Good name. Also, he comes up with the topic for the big fat poll today. And Patrick wants to know simply how many points do you think the Longhorns will score against the Arkansas Razorbacks? And 54% of you say between 25 and 34, and 37% of you say 35 plus points will be scored by the Longhorns versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. So go check out the topic for the big fat poll today at the Horn ATX on X. Real quick, the nugget I want to give you about the Chiefs and the Bills game is that it looks like Isaiah Pacheco is going to be back. As a matter of fact, they are reporting that Isaiah Pacheco, Charles Omenihu, and Juju Smith-Schuster are going to be back for the Kansas City Chiefs. So once again, feeling even better about take anytime Patrick Mahomes is an underdog, man, take that. That is easy money. Right now, Pacheco being back, that makes that offense really tough to defend. Adding DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce's had his best 3-game stretch, actually, like of his career. I'm not making that up. It's he has 32 receptions in the last 3 games. That's the second most by a tight end in a 3-game span in NFL history. DeAndre Hopkins is his presence definitely helping out Travis Kelce. All right, and Pacheco help out DeAndre Hopkins a little bit too. It's kind of a symbiotic relationship. All right, let's hit the Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world, and based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, you have to identify and recall who said that.
You mentioned the NFL, obviously. Right now, you projected. I mean, I don't even know if this is legit. In my head, he projected
The mock
top 10.
draft.
If you could script it exactly how you wanted to.
If I could script it, my family's all in Texas.
Okay.
Family being there, all the connections, all the relationships. I feel like that would just be the perfect city to play in.
Jerry Jones, make the call.
Hey, you know what to do,
Jerry
man.
Jones, make the call.
That's Aston Jainty. Talking about if he could control his own fate about where he's going to get drafted, might be Dallas Cowboys. All right, Jerry Jones, you need a running back. You need to sign Rico Dowdle,
bring in Aston Jainty,
and bring in Aston Jainty, and then you got the best running back, one of the best running back rooms in the NFL.
Flips that quick. You bring in Jainty and get him in there. But he wants to be there, which means Jerry will pass.
Which means the Eagles will somehow trade up ahead of them and get Jainty and have Saquon Barkley in the back. Who knows? All right. Thanks, Patrick, for all you do, brother. Have a great weekend. You're the real MVP. Thank you to all you guys out there for watching and listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll talk about it right here on the Rodcast. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other and have a great weekend. Until next time, hook 'em and peace.